Turn on the microphone. Sorry. Let's start over again. This is the regular meeting of the Mobility and Parking Board, and the date is the 31st of January, and the time is about, we'll call it 5:03. And I'd like to welcome everybody to this meeting. And if we could just go around the table and starting with you, Roy.
Roy Cheney, Deputy City Administrator.
Carl Stang, board member.
Joy.
Corey Satella, board member, vice chair.
Bill Kerner, board member.
Mobility, Juan Alvarez, Mobility and Parking Director.
Rolf Jacobson, board member.
Nancy Fortune sitting in for Natalie as the council liaison.
Great, thank you. And we have some guests. And would you like to introduce yourself? Come on up to the microphone.
Hello, my name is Leslyn Zach, and I'm very interested. I met Corey at the pool, and I'm interested in becoming a board member.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I
that's
have
great.
I have an artificial hip. I have a handicap license plate. I grew up in Manitou. I went to Manitou from kindergarten to high school. My daughter's with me this evening, and she's a junior, oh my goodness, at Manitou. So she just came to support me. But I'd really like to be a voice on the board. That's why I'm here.
Great.
Again, my name's Leslyn Zach.
Well, it's wonderful having.
Good to meet you.
Thank
people
you.
that Really want to join us.
Hey, thanks.
Hey,
Sorry, Mike.
that's all right. We're introducing ourselves, so go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Luke and I'm a member of the map board, local guy, been here all my life.
Great, thank you. Other people like to introduce themselves?
Evening, everyone. Hello, my name is
Come on up.
microphone.
Yeah, just grab a microphone.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Sebastian Loria. I'm with the VIA Transportation Team. So I'm here to give a short presentation on our on-demand services and some of the conversations that we've been having with your transit team and some city leadership. I am right down the road in North Glen, just north of Denver. So just a little hop, skip, and a jump down here, and really excited to be here with you all this evening. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. And come on.
Need to come to the microphone. Leslie Lewis, Visit Manitou Spring.
Okay. Thank you, Leslie. Okay. Next item is approval of the agenda. Like a motion. Anybody want to make a motion?
Bill, I move that we approve the agenda as
Very
written.
good. Thank you, Carl. Is there a second to the motion?
I will second the motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, please signify by saying aye,
Aye.
raising your hand. Motion passes unanimously. The next item of business is approval of the minutes, and we have 5 separate approvals, and I just allocated 5 minutes to this, so this has got to be quick if we're going to get out of here tonight. So does anybody have any comment on any of the agenda items? And if you don't, or go ahead, Corey.
I'll just say thank you to James and the rest of the team for making the changes in some of the minutes that were incorrect in the past. So thanks for the work. I know it's a lot of digging, so thank you for all that.
Do you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve all 5 sets of outstanding minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Any negatives? Not hearing none. Motion passes. Minutes are approved. Public comments on non-agenda items. No? Okay. Would you like to, anybody in the audience, would you like to make a comment? Public comment, period? Oh, we got our city administrator here. Thank you for coming. Okay, presentations. Well, we're going to learn about VIA. So why don't we start that presentation?
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Great. So my name is Sebastian Loria, and I work for a company called Via Transportation. Before I get into the presentation here tonight, I just want to say thank you to the city, leadership teams, transportation teams, and the board here for inviting me to speak tonight and to tell you a little bit more about the company that I work for, the transit solutions that we help communities deploy, and some of the conversations that we've had so far with your city. So what Via Transportation does is we help build innovative transit solutions for communities all around the world and in North America, much like Manitou Springs. I'm here because I've been talking to your transit team about the unique transit challenges and goals for your community. And through a series of conversations, I'm confident that our company, our technology, and our experience can help improve and extend the reach of your public transit system and then solve some of the challenges and pressures, particularly around single occupancy vehicle congestion and parking shortages that your city is facing. Let's see. So just want to walk through a few things this evening. One, I want to tell you a little bit more about microtransit or on-demand transit, which is a form of public transportation that has really evolved over the last 10 to 15 years around North America and all over the world. From there, I want to tell you a little bit more about my company, Via Transportation, and how we are deploying this technology in hundreds of cities and many much like Manitou Springs. And then finally, I've worked with your team to come up with a service design proposal, right? How we can actually implement this technology in your community and what the associated costs might be. So with that, just want to frame the conversation a little bit, right? So we've had quite a few conversations about the challenges, the pressures, right? Some of the potential shortcomings with the current transit system. And a lot of these revolve around, obviously, the popularity of your city. A lot of single occupancy vehicles come to town, and often there are parking shortages and that create congestion throughout your main streets, right? And so thinking about how transit can help solve some of those issues. Additionally, some of the reach of the current public transit system is not as extensive and is not quite serving the entirety of your city, right? So how do we provide public transportation, affordable, equitable, quick, to third shift workers, late night workers, or folks who aren't within walking distance of fixed route systems? So with these challenges in mind, I want to tell you a little bit more about how microtransit can help solve and address some of these issues. So what is microtransit? I'm going to start from the very basic level. Microtransit, also sometimes known as on-demand transit, is modern transportation technology that allows folks to request rides in real time and be dropped off elsewhere in a service zone. This technology is going to group riders going in the same direction and drop them off in real time. So it's a dynamic, fluid public transportation network. What this looks like in real time is pretty flexible, pretty unique. A rider is able to call a ride from their smartphone or pick up a phone and dial a number to say, hey, I'm at City Hall. Can you pick me up and drop me off at this bus station a mile and a half away? So you call that and you track it on your app in real time. And then a minivan, much like this, will pick you up. It might pick someone else up going in the same direction and then drop you off at that location. And so how and why do we do this? What you see here on the left is an example of a city that had a fixed route system, an exclusively fixed route system, that left out about 40 to 50% of their residents. As you can see here from this map, there's quite a few areas where folks just couldn't simply walk to a fixed route system, right? They could not access a bus stop and move around the city easily. So what they did is they partnered with VIA to deploy what we call our virtual bus stop network. So in place of these fixed routes, what they did is they dropped all of these virtual bus stops in which a van could come to pick someone up and then drop someone else off at that at a virtual bus stop elsewhere in the city. So riders don't see this. You see a nice clean map of your city, but basically you're directed to one of these stops and dropped off in real time at another location. So what does this look like, right? What do on-demand transit riders see? Well, it's all based off of very modern, very clean, very intuitive technology. So open up your phone, pull up any smartphone app, and you will find that level of cleanliness and intuitiveness on the Via Rider app. So as you can see here on the left, this is just the start of a journey that a rider might take on an on-demand system. So you select your pickup location, you select your drop-off location, you request that ride again in real time, and the system proposes to you either a public transit option, be it a bus or an on-demand ride, and will allow you to request that and be picked up and dropped off in real time. And if you don't have smartphone access, all this can be done over the phone with live agents. Great. So now that you know a little bit more about microtransit on-demand technology, why would you use this, right? What is this form of public transportation? Well, when we think about public transportation, we often think about those buses running up and down Main Street. Those are not always a great solution for certain communities, right? Let's say certain communities, the homes are very dispersed. They're up in the mountains, they're on smaller streets. It's difficult and inefficient for some larger buses to actually serve those types of areas in a community, right? And so what microtransit does is it lets you deploy and extend the reach of your public transit system with these buses and bring folks to where there might be other fixed routes or commercial centers and jobs, right? And so this is a menu of how we traditionally use microtransit. And 1 and 2, I think, speak particularly well to your city, right? So you have a strong fixed route system in the center of town, and you can use microtransit to extend that to the outer reaches of your city, right? So filling in gaps where existing transit does not serve. And then also bringing individuals to fixed routes, right? From the farther reaches of town so they could travel up and down the main avenues of Manitou Springs or into Colorado Springs, right? Creating a dynamic, fluid system for your residents and employees that work here. All right. So that's just a little bit of background on microtransit and how it can help solve some of the challenges that you might be facing in moving folks around your community and connecting them to public transit. Now, Via, who are we? How do we power this? How do we think about using microtransit? So Via was founded over 12 years ago. And since that date, we've grown into the world's leading provider of advanced public mobility solutions. We have over 700 partnerships around the world and have powered over 125 million rides on our platform. So we have global reach, but that global reach lets us focus in and customize solutions to your community. As you can see here on the bottom left, we have quite a few partnerships around Colorado, as well as similar ones in Utah. So we partner with City of Lone Tree, County of El Paso, City of Durango, as well as High Valley over in Utah, and then a planning partnership with RTD. Yes. This is El Paso. Yes. And I'm going to speak a little bit more about that partnership. So we've been building this microtransit technology for over 10 years now, but that's not the only thing that we do. We offer a wide range of integrated public mobility solutions. We're here to talk about microtransit, but we do everything from paratransit to school buses to planning. So we're really transit experts when we're helping modernize entire systems of public transportation systems. So a local example, in addition to the City of Lone Tree, as well as Durango, is right here in El Paso County. We have basically repurposed our microtransit technology to help with their school system. So our technology and operations helps power their school bus system. We help them pick up rides or students that might not be efficiently served by traditional yellow school buses. And our technology operates in conjunction with those teams to help make that system overall more efficient and safe for students to be picked up. So what are the benefits of microtransit? Well, we see quite a few, especially in communities much like your own. When it comes to the benefits of microtransit, you really see in certain cases a reduction of single occupancy vehicles, right? So I understand I've driven through Manitou at peak times and I've sat in the congestion. I've seen the rush for parking and I've seen the backups that it creates. What we found with microtransit that in addition to extending the reach of your public transit systems and giving access to an entire community, it reduces a reliance for a lot of folks on public transportation. So if I'm at, top of the mountain and I need to get down to the center of town, no longer do I have to rely on a vehicle to take me down there, my own personal vehicle leaving in town. A microtransit van could pick me up and drop me off in the center of town. In addition to that, sorry. And so one example that I just want to point out here is Wilson, North Carolina. Not recommending this, but they entirely replaced their fixed route system with a microtransit service. And like I said at the beginning of the presentation, extended the reach of their transit system from about 60% of the city limits to 100% of the city limits. So what we're going to review here today, what we're proposing is a service that would allow you to cover the entirety of Manitou with public transportation. So a combination of fixed routes as well as a microtransit service. Some similar services in High Valley, Utah, they were facing some challenges that rang true to me. It's a little bit larger of a service, but there were some similar themes, right? So they needed to improve access to the wider metropolitan area, jobs, and employment opportunities. They wanted to expand transit coverage and support tourism while also reducing traffic congestion and demand for parking. So they partnered with us in 2001 and saw massive success. That's been one of our longest standing, most successful services. We've since expanded to 5 different microtransit zones in conjunction with their fixed route system and have seen many benefits for the community. And in particular, here's a study that we conducted in conjunction with UTA to show that microtransit reduced emissions through reduced congestion, right? So this is a snapshot of delay in traffic based on some data from November 2021, right? So we saw a 69% or 64% reduction based on what would have been single occupancy vehicles versus rides that were then taken through shared on-demand transit. And then some more examples of how on-demand transit, this form of public transportation, really can help drive down congestion and emissions for a city, right? So this is obviously a little bit bigger scale, but we find these results are replicated here in Seattle, where we run a microtransit service as well. We estimated in this snapshot of time, about 3 months, about a 29% reduction in CO2 emissions per passenger mile, right? So take people out of single occupancy vehicles, you put them in shared public transit, and you're going to take vehicle miles off the road, and you're going to take congestion off the road. All right, great. So that's a little bit of history and high level of how we think about microtransit, some of the benefits that we've seen. And so now I want to turn to how cities like Manitou partner with VIA and can work with VIA. And then from there, we'll take a look at what this partnership proposal might look like and some of the cost impacts. So working with VIA, we provide everything end to end. When it comes to the technology for your residents, for your employees, for visitors, we provided a smartphone app. A great example is Durango or Lone Tree. Feel free to find their apps in the App Store if you want to get an idea of what those look like. We also provide the operational center as well as driver applications. So it's an end-to-end full technology suite. But in addition to that, our company also offers what we call turnkey operations, right? So some municipalities work with us in just a software capacity, but others, want to launch and test a microtransit service very quickly and easily and cost effectively. And that's where Via Turnkey comes into play. So think of this as giving you the ability to stand up a microtransit service, a microtransit department within your transit department within 6 to 12 weeks. So what does this cover? Of course, the technology, branded vehicles, vehicle maintenance, fleet, everything. And then drivers, operations, and support teams that are managed by the Via operations team. Yes, sir.
Before you mentioned a call center for people that didn't have a phone, is that part of the turnkey service or is that part of the app on-demand technology? How does that fit in?
Yeah, yes, great question. So that would be part of our support team. So turnkey service is everything, right?
So if we didn't get the turnkey service, the phone support would be extra?
So yeah, the phone support could be added on to the software as kind of an additional part of the package. Yep. And so just to dive a little bit deeper into Via Turnkey, this is, like I said, everything from driver acquisition, hiring, training, to vehicle acquisition, branding, maintenance, live service monitoring and management, rider engagement, community education, customer service, and then funding and grant support. So making sure that your transit department has sustainable funding. Yes. 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 Yeah, absolutely. So I have a slide on that specifically that I'm happy to get to if that's all right, or I can jump to it now. Okay, excellent. Sure. No problem. It's a fair question. I'm glad you brought it up. I'll just answer a portion of that before I get into the larger thing. So Lyft, Uber is typically considered that it's private vehicle ownership. It's not true public transportation. There's no wheelchair access. There's no shared rides. It's not integrated into your public transit system. Whereas a company like Via, a microtransit provider, is going to be fully integrated and working with your public transit team. So not only are we a dedicated fleet that always provides availability, so service is reliable, we are going to group riders and rides together. We are going to offer the suite of bus trips as well as on-demand trips. And then we're going to provide access for everybody, not just folks who are able to, get into a privately owned vehicle. And I think one of the other key differentiators is if we need Lyft or Uber service here, it relies on someone going out and purchasing a brand new vehicle, right? So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Lyft drivers, assuming that there are enough in the area to serve demand, that's going to be 8 new vehicles that are purchased and in your community and relying on parking in and around the area, as opposed to a dedicated shared fleet that can group multiple people onto that is going to help reduce the congestion. Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'm going to move quickly because I realize I only have a few more minutes. When it comes to funding, I just want to highlight that another key aspect of Via Turnkey is funding support. Public transportation can be expensive, right? We need some way to make it sustainable and reliable in the long run. So we help our partners pursue kind of 3 main buckets of funding. So federal formula funds, public-private partnerships, federal, state, and local grants, right? And we make this a reality with our partners. This is just a snapshot of about 8 different services that fund their microtransit services in a whole variety of ways. And our support has helped bring in millions of dollars for our partners to not just launch this, but make these 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year partnerships that communities can rely on. And this would be a key part of any partnership between Via and your city. Okay. Before I turn to some of the impacts of a simulation study that I had, any additional questions before I turn to that? Yes, please. Yes, absolutely. So when it comes to drivers, we offer a variety of employment models. We hold our drivers to federal driving standards. And when it comes to drug and alcohol testing, when it comes to onboarding processes. So we recruit drivers, we bring them on board and ensure that they're fully trained, fully FTA federal compliant when it comes to any required trainings. And then we do continual monitoring, training, and testing of our drivers throughout the life cycle of a service. And we're very competitive with our pay, always making sure that it's in line or exceeding local conditions. And that has allowed us to do two things that I think are pretty unique when it comes to current transit conditions, where most companies and transit agencies are struggling to find, hire, and retain drivers. We are seeing we're recruiting drivers more effectively at much higher rates. And retaining drivers far more effectively than a lot of other providers or transit agencies that are struggling with that challenge right now. Absolutely. Yes, sir, please.
So do the trips leave the city itself?
It's a great question. And I'm going to show you a little bit about the service design that we're proposing here in this section. Yes. So that really depends on the city partnership that we work with. Some municipalities in conjunction with those gated communities are okay with that. Others are not. That's the beauty of working with our turnkey operations team is we will kind of figure out those rules with you, work with those communities and just make sure that we have, authority from the city and then buy-in from that community. So it really depends, but we can do either. Yes, sir. So when it comes to a schedule, we run what we call service hours, right? So let's say we would start with matching the hours of your fixed route system. And I'm just gonna throw this out from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. would be our service hours. And then what it would look like is your city would be covered by a service zone, much like this. And we would come and pick you up on your street corner in front of your house and then drop you off in the center of town. And just dynamically, there are requests all throughout those service hours, picking up, grouping, and dropping off riders in different parts of the service zone. Exactly. Exactly. It's totally dynamic and it brings residents all over the city. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
In one of your earlier slides, I believe said you saved 59,000 single occupancy vehicle miles. Do your calculations for that incorporate the fact that you're having to go back and forth in your vehicle, whereas a single occupancy vehicle would only have to go once back and forth?
So yes, it's accounting for traditional single occupancy vehicles, and that's a commuter service. So what you would actually see is single occupancy vehicles going to and from for a round trip of day services. And so we find efficiencies because we are eliminating a number of those private vehicles by grouping riders in the same group, both going to an employment center or a transit center, and then also coming from that employment center. So if you group 3 individuals on that one van, that's 1 vehicle versus the 3 vehicles they would have driven.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Yes.
You stop at 6 o'clock in the evening.
Oh, I was throwing out a hypothetical set
Okay,
of
so
hours.
it's flexible.
It's flexible. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so if somebody comes out, they've had 1 or 2 and all of that, and would you pick them up at 10:30 or
It-
midnight?
Yeah, those are the agreed upon service hours
Okay.
with the city. And that's a discussion that would be ongoing. We could do that. Some cities use it as late night services to handle exactly that.
Okay.
All right, so am I doing okay on time? All right, great. So service proposal. So sir, to answer your question, where would our residents, our visitors and employees be able to ride in the city? So what we did is we have what we call a strategies team that helps us think about what's the best way to deploy microtransit service for a community. They've done over 60 or 70 network redesigns. They're transit experts, and they helped us take a look at your unique city. So what they ultimately found and recommended based on your existing services, right? So we know that we have the 2 local bus routes operated by Mountain Metro that are relatively well used. Is their recommendation, our recommendation would be to deploy microtransit to the entirety of Manitou Springs city limits, right? And so that is represented here by this blue zone. What you're seeing are fixed routes within your city limits, as well as one of the connectors from Colorado Springs. Yes, sir.
And how many virtual bus stops and how many shuttles for that service?
So we are recommending approximately 2 vehicles, 2 to 3 vehicles, 2 vehicles to serve this. I don't have the number of virtual bus stops off the top of my head. That's all mapped on the back end, but it's basically you're gonna have a virtual bus stop at every single street corner in effect. Yeah, please.
So that makes sense in a level flat grid system. Manitou is not flat and not a grid system. And so a virtual bus stop where I have to walk uphill is probably not going to be acceptable to all users, but just a side note.
No, it's a great point, and I'm glad you brought that up because the virtual bus stops are not going to ever be very far from an individual's request point, right? We can kind of configure how far they need to walk. It can be very close or it can be right to their front door. In addition to that, if there are individuals who need service directly where they are and they're not as mobile, we can set that up for those riders. So if someone can't, walk around the block or go up a hill, the ride can come directly to their front door and drop them off directly where they need to be downtown.
Sorry, one other
No,
comment.
please. Yeah.
So the other interesting thing with your proposal is, so you have your service area, but Manitou is really kind of a bedroom community. I mean, we don't have a hospital, we don't have a grocery store, and trying to see if that goes far. Yeah, there's Safeway is outside the service zone. There's not there's people that come and work at the retail businesses, but a lot of people, work outside of Manitou. And so is that kind of a requirement for this to be successful, that you have those work centers or higher density destinations?
A good question, but not necessarily. So 2 things here, two observations. Actually, the latest iteration of our service zone, and thank you for calling it out, does include the Safeway, as well as this point of the city, right? So it encompasses even more locations. For a microtransit service to be successful, it doesn't necessarily require job centers. What it requires is transit challenged communities or folks that might not have full access to the public transit system, or communities that have an over-reliance on single occupancy vehicles and challenges with that. So with your core resident base, as well as the influx of residents, we're projecting, based on our simulations, which I'll talk about here in a little bit, quite strong ridership every day and throughout the weeks. And then supply of vehicles can be scaled up or down to match that. All right, great. So our recommendation to expand transit, to make sure folks that can connect to core downtown transit access jobs and leave their vehicles at home in the meantime, would be a microtransit service that expands the entirety as well as reaching into Safeway of your municipality. So what it would do is immediately from day one, double the reach, double the amount of riders who are within walking distance or accessible to public transit. So because you're expanding that map, right? No longer are you reliant on walking 0.25 miles is considered the traditional amount of distance someone would walk to a fixed route system. A little bit different here, probably shorter, especially given the hills and some of the snowy conditions. You're more than doubling the amount of folks who can actually access the entire system. And then additionally, just one other observation, it cuts down the commute time to folks going to Colorado Springs by about 50%. And then also increases the amount of individuals from Colorado Springs that can reach the entirety of Manitou Springs by quite a significant factor, right? Because our fixed route buses will bring folks in and then they can ride further on the microtransit vans as opposed to hopping in a single vehicle or potentially having to or not walking that distance. So it really expands the reach in and out of Manitou Springs. Yes, sir.
Do we have to get an agreement to go into Colorado Springs from Colorado Springs to make this work?
So when I say in and out of Colorado Springs, I mean, that's the bus line from Colorado Springs.
Right.
Yeah. No, I don't believe so. Not to my
So you're-
knowledge.
you're-
It's,
You can spread out in Colorado Springs, but do you need some connection directly with Manitou Springs, and is Manitou Springs paying for all of that?
are you talking about the fixed route connection in the app?
No, I'm talking about your vehicles that you use.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So right now they wouldn't, I believe it's Colorado Springs. The only potential crossover into Colorado Springs would be the Safeway service. Would be a drop off point at Safeway. But other than that, it would be entirely within Manitou Springs. And then riders would be connected
Okay.
by buses between the two cities. Yes, sir.
Sorry, he triggered another question.
Yes.
So does your app allow coordination of ticketing? So if I'm in Colorado Springs, can I use the Mountain Metro Transit app, buy a ticket that is a combined ticket of the 3 bus from Colorado Springs to Manitou and then a VIA to get wherever
Mhm.
as a single ticket? Is
Mhm.
there that kind of integration built in?
It's a great question. And the current app that we offer right now, our white label app that would say Manitou Springs Transit or whatever it might be, does not offer that functionality. We do have a company that we recently acquired called City Mapper that does allow us to do that. It's not quite there yet, but we are building that into our systems. And in the future, you will be able ideally to have one cohesive regional transit network based on that app that allows you to take a bus into Manitou, grab a microtransit van, ride the bus back into Colorado Springs, all on one platform and one intuitive ticketing system. Right? All right. So there are some of the benefits. We ran some simulations based on our hundreds of services to see what our ridership might be. There were 2 scenarios in which we did this, a 2-vehicle scenario and then a 3-vehicle scenario. My recommendation is that you consider the 2-vehicle scenario. I think that would be sufficient, at least to start, to serve the wider community. So based on those parameters and your population and potential, influx of visitors throughout the day and seasons, you could expect anywhere from 70 to 85 trips a day. And then with that potentially peaking even further when it comes to tourists visiting the area. And so how it works with our supply model, putting vans on the road, is we operate what we call a not to exceed budget, right? So any partnership would say, all right, this is the maximum amount of money that can be spent on the service day to day, week to week. And then we match our van supply to meet demand exactly, right? And so how that manifests is over there on the right side. That is an actual matching of a service in which we deploy van hours precisely to match the actual demand that you're seeing week to week. So as opposed to constantly running buses, right, with potentially no one in them, if there's no demand at that time, there will not be vans on the road necessarily just running around empty, clogging up your streets, right? There won't be Uber, Lyft drivers sitting waiting for rides in parking spots throughout the community. So that's a pretty unique thing about our operating model and something to keep in mind as I show you potential pricing numbers for our service. All right, so there are three options that I'm going to briefly review here today, and these are the final slides that I have. So option one would be 1 year, 12 months of 2 or 3 van service, right? So this would be jumping into a longer term commitment. And like I said, we can ignore proposal B as it's 3 vans. I want to focus on proposal A, the 2 van scenario. So under this scenario, the not to exceed budget would be anywhere from 0.75 or 750,000 to 620,000 as the maximum amount that could be spent on those services throughout the year. And again, those van hours, those service hours would be deployed flexibly and in conjunction with your team and based on demand that we're seeing in the service. That's option one. Again, an NTE about an hour, and we charge an hourly van rates system. So anywhere from $77 to $87 based on the number of vans that we have out there. But again, capped at this number that you see here in the second column. Option two is quite interesting. This is a 3-month pilot that we have discussed with your transit team, with your leadership team. So option two is actually what we call a driver provided vehicle service. So in conjunction with your team, we would create magnets designs to put on the side of those vehicles. And for 3 months, those drivers would serve your peak season, the summer season, right? When you're seeing that maximum tourist demand, maximum strain on the system overall. This is really interesting because it lets you experiment with a very short-term, low-risk turnkey microtransit service at a not to exceed of 173,000 to 189,000. And again, that's a 3-month commitment, giving you time to explore, study the data, see the impact on your system. And in that same vein, if the city were to provide vehicles where Viator provided everything else, including the drivers, that number would actually go down a little bit, right? With a not to exceed at the maximum end of 185K to provide those 3 months of service, about 12 hours of service a day, 7 days a week. So to recap, you have the potential to deploy a citywide microtransit service that would not only reduce the strain on your parking system, take vehicles off the road, connect more residents to transit, increase the access to wheelchair accessible vehicles, which are a part of the service always. You have 3 options to do it, a longer term commitment or a summer pilot that allows the city to test out a form of public transportation that has been proven to extend the reach of transit and do so in a way that takes private vehicles off the road and really builds out and supports your public transportation system. Thank you. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Microphone. And the pressure on the town, we get overwhelmed with where are people going to park? How are we going to get them to the event and so forth? How would you respond to that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm really glad you brought that up. So how I would respond to that is during our weekly check-ins with the operations team, right? We would identify an event like that months in advance, right? We understand there's a major event coming to town. That means there's going to be additional pressure on the overall system as well as the microtransit system. So what we'd recommend is potentially bringing on additional temporary vehicles for that one day, right? So flexibly increasing supply of vehicles. And then in addition to that, heavily promoting the microtransit service to folks that are coming to the area, to residents, to say, hey, you're not going to be able to park, download this app so you can move around the community easily. And so you're able to scale up to meet those demands. You're able to easily communicate that to visitors, to residents, that they have a new transit option to move around without relying on the vehicle. And what that would allow folks to do is to ride a bus in from Colorado Springs, take a microtransit service anywhere in the city, and leave their car at home. And we do this with a lot of partners, right? I work with a service in Miami, which is 50 vehicles in 13 zones, and they often have major events, and we help them adjust to those events in real time, much like I just described here. Yes, sir.
How much do the riders pay?
Great question. So that's really up to the city. Some services go fare free. Others go discounts for residents versus visitors, and then others often anchor on the closest fixed route system, right? So if the fixed route bus here is $2, that's what we typically would recommend the cost for a micro transit ride to be as well. But it can be configured based on the city's goals. And we also have a perspective on what we think you should charge. Typically, we recommend some charge for this service. But it's really, we can customize it. Yes, yes.
Do you have a data collection system that we could use to evaluate the efficacy of this or the efficiency, effectiveness of this?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a really robust data reporting system. It's a series of dashboard visualizations that allows you to cut up data very easily, very quickly, and then table reports that allow you to download, put it into Excel, and manipulate the data from there. And that's all accessible, which is another difference between Uber and Lyft, which typically don't allow access to that data, but the data is all yours.
So it'd be pretty much real time data or almost real time as well.
It's fully populated the day after,
Thanks.
yes. Mhm. Sir.
Can you speak to how many cities today that you work with that have a population of, similar to Manitou, 5,000 or less, or even regions?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I don't have an answer off the top of my head. I'm happy to provide an answer for you on municipalities that are anywhere from 5,000 core resident, and then also see influxes of riders. I will say we do work with quite a few smaller communities. Portions of our UTA service are quite small. They have smaller population groups, and they use microtransit to provide that access to those smaller communities, connect them to the fixed route system regionally, and move folks around that way. But I'm happy to find an answer for you specifically. Yep. Excellent. All right. Thank you very much. Really appreciate the time.
Who's gonna do that? You're gonna do that, okay. He's
after seeing this presentation, one of the things that we wanted to share with everyone, this was sent to everyone for you to review, was that looking at the trams and looking at the VIA options, one of the things that we did is that we wanted to hold a community engagement to ask questions where they see the trams going, where did they want to use them for, challenges that they would be having. And the top four out of all from the community engagement in their conclusion that stood out to us. Number one, they wanted to wait no more from anywhere from like 10 to 20 minutes for their destination, wherever they were going. The next one was they wanted to use a tram frequently and not have any delays going to Safeway. Another conclusion where they desire to go was to use it not so much during the day, but to use it in the evening. If they were going to restaurants, going to go get a drink, they wanted to have those the options to use the trams to take them to these locations. But those were the top three that really stood out from all of the questions for the trams. The other ones weren't as important, as far as accompanying, like if a child goes in, they would have to be accompanied in by adult. But overall, they wanted to stay within the city of Manitou Springs, and they did want to open it up for visitors, employees, just everybody. But they wanted to stay within the perimeter within Manitou Springs. And the question I have is, was there anything else that was important to you as we before we began our study in our walkability city, with trams and shuttles?
Juan, just to confirm, this was the December public input.
December 11th input.
Thank you.
Was there anything that stood out to anyone?
If I can speak, one of the things I noticed was comparing it to the book, the chapters 21, 22, and 23, and comparing what was in that to this report, just to see how the author of this book met Manitou. In other words, what are the things in Manitou that people wanted as compared to the book? And they were very comparable. I think what this book showed from this report is that people want it for everybody, not to restrict it to just the residents. And
That
in
is
the book,
correct.
that's what they talked about. The other thing about food and drink, you don't want to start fights on the buses. I think we just allow students and young people to ride as well as older people. But and that was also in comparison of this report to the book chapters. It was interesting to see some of the likenesses of what we're doing and what the book is saying.
Right, correct. And another thing was the ridership versus the coverage, because as we mobilize, like let's just say with VIA, if we start with 2 and we start tracking ridership, that will give us like very good data as we move forward, and eventually we'll be able to add more shuttles if we need to.
Yeah, I want to add Joy real quick. One thing, a few of the studies I've looked at talk about how the large cities and small cities really have the same problems. It's just a bigger scale or a smaller scale. So I think that's something we have to consider as we go through this. There's a lot of good information out there. I think this book could be helpful. And then with your knowledge of your neighborhoods and your struggles, we might tweak it from there. So good point you brought up, Joy. Thank you.
So one comment. So from that public meeting, I think it was really focused around the electric trams. And so I know there was discussion of, oh, hey, could it go up Ruxton? But it was like, oh, we don't believe that the electric vehicles will be able to go up and down Ruxton Avenue, for example, all day long. And so it was really trying to focus more on the core and downtown.
Sure.
And so I think that's important when you interpret what was discussed. And then second, it feels like, talking about the 2 e-shuttles that we got, now we're talking VIA. There's been discussions at council about, the changes to the shuttle. And so, we need to look at it as a cohesive project, right? Because it all works together. And so again, right, we need to make a decision where it all works together and we're not overlapping service.
Correct. And the point of this is like to look at the bigger picture, especially when we're looking at walkability and even bikeability, because the whole idea is to open up the streets, not having congested, putting them in lots and out of the street, possibly picking them up from their home, so that we can look at biking lanes, creating pedestrian walkways. So this is like where we're headed, especially right now that we've been testing a lot of the trams. Right now, as we're testing them right now, they're only without going uphill, they're only lasting under 4 hours. And this is where we wanted to look at VIA as that option so that we can reduce congestion as much as we can, so that we can focus on those 2 areas and walkability and bikeability.
So one comment on that. So, during the VIA presentation, Sebastian said a couple of times, hey, how VIA could connect to our fixed transit. I don't know how many of you have ridden the number 3 recently. It is the highest ridership route for the Mountain Metro Transit System, but that doesn't say a lot, right? And the headways are much longer than 20 minutes.
Mm.
And unfortunately, you know, I think that route, there's a certain stigma around it. And so there's going to be resistance to using that unless we somehow kind of market that and put a new spin on it.
So just to clarify, I think we're talking about 33, as 3 comes from Colorado Springs, 33 is the incline, and the incline is the most used in build route. Is that correct?
So the 33 to the incline is definitely the number one
Yes.
route. Yeah. No, I'm talking about number 3. So the non-Manitou
Oh,
shuttle
okay, gotcha.
routes of Mountain Metro Transit.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further comments on the presentation? Any further comments on the presentation? Do you have any additional?
No, we can go, 3 and 4 are tied into our presentation,
Okay,
to our PowerPoint.
well, let's talk about number 3 then, Mountain Metro plans.
Yeah. PowerPoint, yeah. James, it's the other one.
Okay, so I'll start this off and then I'll hand it off to Juan. But one thing I've learned in the past few months was trying to figure out how do we set goals, how we achieve them. And one of the programs I went through talked about 3 important categories. So when we go after and look at some of these solutions, we have to have passion for it as a number 1. We have to really want this thing to happen if it's going to happen. So we have to find things that we really believe in and have passion for. Also, can we make it the best? Are we capable? So number 2 is, are we able to do this, or do we need outside help? Do we need experts? Experts can be from this group. Experts may be someone we have to pay to come in, but we need to make sure who can handle that so we can have success with it. Okay. And then number 3 is, can we even afford it? Is it possible for the city to afford doing that? And so I want you to keep those 3 things in mind as we move forward in the next few months on how we're going to view all our ideas and how we want to go forward with the ideas. Sometimes the cost could mean it's just a 10-year project. It doesn't mean we can't do it, but maybe we don't have, $5 million this year, right? So keep that in mind as we move forward into these projects and talk about what we want for Manitou. And then in the end, when we make these decisions, I know that we all won't agree with everything. It's just impossible, right? So we have to use the democratic approach. And so when we vote for things that we want to move forward on something, it is the majority rules, and then we all have to embrace it and then go after it and try to get it done. When we get the report from the MAPS board for our presentation to council, what will be important based on what I heard from the group in the past was that we do list who was opposed and who was for certain projects. I think that's very important. We get that from the chair from their memo saying they support this or not, and then who voted yes and for and against. But we do need then to be a team and move forward on what we've agreed upon using that approach. So we always can't get 100%, and that's okay. And when we do figure out what we want to do, then unlike the fox or like my dog at home, if he sees the ball over there, he'll run after it, but I throw the ball there, he'll go after a different ball, and he can't focus on one thing at a time. So we don't want to do this as the fox. We want to do this as a hedgehog. A hedgehog digs holes, and they're good at it. And so when we figure out what we want to do, we have to be a hedgehog, and we got to focus on those things. If they're low hanging fruit, then we go after those. and we get some of those done, but we be careful that we don't have 50 items that we want to do. And then we get caught up in trying to figure out how we're going to do 50 items. So that's going to be the goal in the next few months. And I just wanted to lead with that. So we all have a focus on how we're going to achieve these things and really improve things in Manitou Springs, because I do believe this group can do it. So having said that, I'll leave it to Juan now to start working on this, since we do have some work to do tonight still. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you. So as we read the walkable city rules, we talked about not everything is going to be tied to the city of Manitou Springs. I sent out a template so that we can focus on our ideas as we go through every single one of these questions on how we can move into our first phase and under shuttles and trams. This was regarding the template. So from a perspective of the shuttles and trams, what is Manitou Springs already doing well?
So I can start it off. I mean, I would say what we're doing well with our transportation system right now is probably getting people to the incline. We did the reservation system. We pushed for that at the incline to reduce the number of users. That has helped some of the congestion on Ruxton. And also then we made it that you had to go to Hiawatha and get your ticket. So you couldn't just park wherever you want to, but you go get a ticket so you can show the incline attendance, and then you have access to the incline. All that has been pretty good. And so that's where I'll start off. I think we have hit the incline thing better than we ever had. Is there room for improvement? Always. But that has helped a lot, just even by when it showed, we look at the ridership and the use of the incline. And even some of the comments we hear about Ruxton being a little bit lighter these days than back in the day when I remember the 500 cars per hour. So I think and at some point, I'm hoping to get some data on that to show that's reduced to. And we have the capabilities now. So we're going to be doing that soon in this next couple of months to show you some of the data. But that's something we're doing well. So I started it. Anybody else have things you think you're doing well in transit?
Well, I just wanted to second what you just said. Ruxton is so much improved over what it used to be before we instituted the shuttles and the system of people registering to use the incline. And I would hope, and I don't have any data or anything to show, but it would be nice if the COG used the shuttle more than they apparently do. I just don't know. Do we have any data on that?
It's a good question. We probably don't have some real hard data lately. But they do have a 350 parking spot lot up there. So that's going to definitely bring some people up Ruxton. But I do know that, and Juan, you may remember, but I thought I saw probably 20% might be from Mountain Metro. They think are COG users. Somewhere I got that number, maybe 20% of the riders going up number 33 might be COG riders. So I don't have that hard number though, and if that's a legit thing. So maybe we should try to figure that out too and get some information back.
I think that would be good to get some data. And maybe the COG has it right now. I just don't know.
Sure. They might, because when they do the reservation system online,
Yeah.
I think they either have to pick their parking spot is one way they can do it. And if they don't, the assumption may be they're going into and parking in town and things like that. So it may not be full data, because I don't know how much they track it to that degree, but they probably can take a percentage out of their parking lot users, and then whatever remainder could be the ones that are parking downtown using the shuttle. But I'll reach out to them and see if we can't get something.
Thank you.
I think one of the things that we're doing well in Manitou is we don't give up. We tried innovative ways. We try to figure out our transportation, our parking. We just don't give up. We just don't say, well, we're going to have congestion and we don't do anything. And I think that's something that is really Manitou. It's just like the VIA. It's like all the things that we've been doing, from the residential parking permits to the buses, to the shuttles, getting the trams. We don't give up. And I think that's something that we do well.
Carl?
So in the context of shuttles and trams, we don't have a very deep well to dig from here, but I mean, obviously the 33 is a home run, right? The ridership on that is through the roof and enviable and has had a positive effect. And yes, there's more that can be done, but hey, that's a lot less cars going up Ruxton. I think we also, I mean, we do shuttles around special events. I think maybe I would rate that as a good. I don't know if that's great. And then obviously the 36 has lots of room for improvement.
Sure. No, and I agree. I think one of the positives is that they make, even there's a lot of room for improvement, that it does make frequent stops, taking people to businesses and whether it's restaurants and entertainment. So I think that's a big plus that's currently working right now.
Yeah, and Juan, I don't know if you told the group, but we did one pilot tram use for the library. And I think you said we had 15 people use it that parked.
We had 15.
So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
To fill a whole bus at one trip. or
That
one
was
event.
within 2 hours.
Yeah.
Special events. Yeah, I mean, that's a
Yeah.
perfect example. Yeah.
Hey, anyone else? All right.
I would just say my preference here is Roy's going to know this, but we now are really trying very hard to make database decisions as opposed to just the loudest voice gets the thing. So I think that that's very exciting and a positive, very positive step.
Thank you. The next thing is an action steps under shuttles and trams. The way we want to look at this is what is the immediate? That's currently like now. Short term is anywhere from 1 to 3 years. Long term is anything over 3 years.
And how are we going to measure success?
For immediate, one of the things that I concluded from reading the book is community meetings, support for future planning. What population will be best served with the shuttles and trams and why? Examining the trends, ridership, coverage, usage. Connecting key destinations was another one. Those were, for me, after reading the book, those were the immediate. For the short term that I gathered from the book was supporting employees, evaluating ridership and coverage, on-demand services, and what does it look like, for long seasons or short seasons. For the long term, I was looking at all extended hours, dedicated lanes, redirecting traffic, special event pickups, special routes through residential areas to help keep cars at home. And that way we can eventually expand and reduce congestion within the city limits.
Okay, Juan, can we talk about, because one of our pressing goals right now to complete tonight for sure is going to be our routes. And with Mountain Metro now, we know we will have the same route as we had last year. We won't have additional shuttles available till next year. And then that change is a process. As we all know, it takes months to do a change. So there's some interesting discussion that would be more I guess we're talking the short term for the Mountain Metro, that next year maybe we can make some adjustments to it. But we do have trams that we want to put in service in May. And our idea as a city right now, after testing, is possibly using them for, Hiawatha to Cannon Park, loop back around and make that a simple flat route to try to handle the visitors or anybody else who's at Hiawatha or anywhere in town wants to get to one end to the other. And since we have a 3 to 4 hour period of battery use, that allows us anywhere from 6 to 8 hours of shuttle per day because we'd have to put one out of service while the other one's in operation. Then the thought is possibly that the VIA pilot could handle the other side of this, of the residents' needs. And again, if everyone, I don't know if everyone understood the virtual bus stops, but basically we would help pinpoint certain places in the neighborhoods that would be a virtual bus stop that they will see on their app. And then they know they just have to walk a little distance to it and get picked up. So it's very convenient. It can help. I think someone mentioned the evening hours when it's tough, when people are going out and having a good time. Can they safely get home? It is important that a transit system to work that's reliable from start to finish. You know, we can't ask people who work in the city, you know, the businesses to say, hey, use the transit in the morning, but sorry, at night, you're gonna have to walk back to the Hiawatha in the dark, right? So we have to make it workable. That's where the VIA really, you know, it's been part of the TMMP for a couple of years now, trying to wait to see if that service is something that can improve over time, you know, because they perfect the software and they have time. And now we're approaching that moment where it's like, look, this stuff is starting to work. They have data to show us. And our goal, you know, our goal at the end of the day is a walkable city, which doesn't mean just walking, right? It means we always walk to our vehicle, whatever that may be. We use it and then we have to walk again somewhere. So walking becomes a very important part of what we do and is really the start and finish no matter what we do, bikes, skateboards, cars. So the question is, how do we make it safer for that? How do we make it where people want to walk more? And then how do we reduce that congestion to make it safer for the bicyclist? You know, one thing we're really gonna have to talk about is probably the skateboards and things. It's not going away. So how do we make a safe place for them? How do we do it? Can't, you know, and if we can't, then we're going to have the rogue skateboards. They're just going to be here. We can't stop it. We can try, but we have to really think about those solutions. So what we need to do now, though, is still continued testing of our EV trams, what they're really capable of doing. We're stuck with the Mountain Metro setup, so that's a no-brainer. We're going to do it the way it is that it was done for the last several years. And then our suggestion is we do the trams, like I said, Hiawatha, and we can adjust it later. What's great about this, and we're meeting every month, if there's any questions or concerns one month, we can talk about it and maybe we have to make some tweaks. And it's our tram, we can make the tweaks. We just have to give enough notice to the community on what we're doing, which may be 20 days, I don't know, 7 days, I don't know. We'll have to figure that out with the PIO. But hey, we're going to make an adjustment to our route. Start getting data. Start like Carl mentioned, you know, we got to get some data on the trams. How long do they really last with people on them, which makes them heavier? If we use air conditioning, if we use the windshield wipers, there's a lot of things we just don't know 100%. And that's why we thought, well, we better get 2 trams first, but it may mean we need several more at their price, or you know, maybe the VIA is going to help us in Manitou where we have these hills and these areas that are difficult to navigate with a tram. Number one, that's part of our problem. Navigating those hills is tough for those, but also give convenience and safety to people, closer access to a vehicle to get downtown. And I'll just say this one final thing, and then we can talk maybe about routes. Any thoughts about the routes? You know, I did a lot of research because I at first was like, well, what's the difference? Let's just get some Uber in here. Let's just get Uber or Lyft, and why do VIA and pay this money? And I came across a study about the Uber, and now that they've been out there a long time, they're increasing congestion in towns is what they're coming up with, because people are buying cars now, getting an Uber job and saying, I'm going to pay off my car. And then they're done and they either stay with Uber, but they bought another car. And they typically only pick up one person. So you're still having one car pick up one person. VIA is going to be 2 vehicles that pick up multiple people along the path. And they have a system that's workable with that now, which is going to reduce that congestion, because at the ultimate goal is, can we make it safer for bikers? Well, yes, if we kind of reduce the traffic load of the vehicles downtown. Can we make it safe for pedestrians? Yeah, if we reduce the traffic congestion. It's going to be the car that hurts someone, not the bike. you know, so the car, we have to see how we reduce that and give people alternatives. So I think there's a big opportunity here, and with the pilot gives us really a chance to test it out and see if that's possible, along with everything else we're going to be looking at over the next couple of months. So anyway, I would love any other ideas than ours, if there are any, or do you like our idea of how to use the trams this summer? And then see how it goes and report back as summer use goes in the next few months.
Comments from the board?
I agree with the limited route from Hiawatha to, I guess, Armadillo. Right? And back and forth.
Yeah, we're thinking go down Cannon because they have maybe to the
Okay.
parking lot or the Cannon parking lot. And then back on Park by Soda Springs. And then either if it's dangerous to do a left-hand turn, they could go up the Serpentine, just turn around. Or if the left-hand turn seems safe enough, then they could do a left-hand turn off a Park and go right back down Manitou Avenue to Hiawatha.
Right, and that would just be continual
Correct.
and no real time with stops. It's just the riders would see it and the bus would stop.
We would probably have to locate bus areas and maybe it would be more than what we have now, right? Because there's different levels of transit service. That one you're talking about is called local transit service. There's different categories. And that means we would probably want as many kind of bus stops along the way. One thought we had was a little string that says, hey, I'd like off here, but we also have to consider where we're at and a safe location. You know, we thought maybe we can just pull over probably in the mountain metro zones as the typical stops. And then we put signs there that also the Manitou tram, this is also a Manitou tram route that's coming by every, I don't know, 10 minutes.
Right, and so it's a limited route for this first year.
Yes.
And would you be running both of them at the same time to even increase the frequency, I guess?
No, well, it depends, right? So that's where I can get some input from this group as maybe part of the first part of the test is do we run 2 trams, you know, for a max of 4 hours and hit that peak period? Or do we run one for 3 hours, 3.5 hours, whatever, and then it goes out of service to charge and we bring in the second one to finish out and ends up having a 6 to 8 hour tram service with one tram?
I would go with the putting one out of service and then getting the 6 to 8 hours or whatever we get. Because I think one of the things that the book says and this community engagement is they want it to be, you know, clarity. They want to know that it's going to be there. And they also say to do a straight route as straight as you can, because then people get used to it and they know it and they start using it. But I wouldn't want to do just 4 hours because I can see the feedback of, well, once again, we only get 4 hours and I'm down at some place and I need a ride at 6. So
Yeah.
I would recommend it that way.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Ed. The only situation I can see where you want to have them both in service is for an event.
Yes. And there's another side point real quick, Carl, and I know you want to say something, but if we do one, another benefit of doing one is that the second one is our emergency backup. You know, things do happen, but maybe then, this one's not working right. Let's get it out of service. Let's bring in the other one, see if we can get that one fixed and get back on. So that does give us, if we have 2 in for that 3 hour, 4 hour period, then that's it. I mean, we don't have any backups. We don't have anything happening there. So we're kind of stuck a little bit. So I prefer probably the longer, you know, using one at a time. It gives us something we've never had anyway, so it's a benefit. And I think, Joy, you just said it, very important, that straight line. And we make people get used to it. And they're like, oh, this thing comes all the time. It's here. Let's get on it. And they can, once they rely on it, that's a game changer, right? Because we like our cars because we know it's there in our parked in our garage or at our front yard, and we can just hop in anytime we want to. The shuttle has to be the same way almost the best you can. That's why I have concerns if we start going, you know, 30-minute, 40-minute shuttles. Maybe it gets used. I don't know. I don't know if I'd wait. But when interesting enough, when I was stationed in Korea, when I was in the Army, buses came by, it seemed like every 30 seconds, but I know it was like maybe 5 to 10 minutes. But I tell you, by the time you walk there and you wait a couple minutes, the bus was there. And so I didn't have a car. I rode a bike and I rode the bus. And I didn't care because I got where I needed to go whenever I needed to go. And that's where in America, we're not quite there yet on that, but we're trying. And Manitou is a good place to really start pushing something like that. Can we just make it that convenient? And then suddenly less traffic on the road, less pollution, lots of things happen if we start to that. And then we get the bicyclists to come out because, and the bicyclists can either back me up on that, but I think I read plenty about that you have to build it safe first to get the bicyclists to really want to use it. Otherwise, they're going into a perceived and maybe dangerous situation on the road. So you build it first, you make it safe. And part of making it safe is reducing some of this traffic that's all over the place in the summertime. So anyway, I'm dragging on too long here.
And we plan on using them. We have spring break coming up in March. So we are going to be running the trams just to, track ridership and see how far we can extend the battery life on it. So we feel like it's gonna be a good run during that time. Carl?
So just a quick thought projection here. So when you first mentioned that route, the first thought in my mind was, from Hiawatha into downtown Manitou Springs is, oh, this is just going to really be for tourists, right? Because it's Hiawatha. Then I started shifting it to, oh, could we attract locals to park at Hiawatha and take the shuttle to go downtown for, to go have dinner or whatever? And that's possible, but there's a question here. The question at the end is, has there been any discussion of trying to change parking where it's more expensive downtown in the core than Hiawatha? I know there's a price differential today. It's what, the 2 or 3 zone. But if we increase that price differential, you could encourage more people to actually utilize the tram, and doing that in a coordinated effort.
Okay, so the progressive parking program, thanks, Carl. That's a great question. And something probably I could have brought up in one of the success stories, I think. And we're going to be bringing data on that as we do our little studies here about, because part of this, if you saw that in the book, it talks about the progressive parking, basically charging the right price in the right area, so that we finally have like a solid year data from months to month versus trying to guess when we first started this. So now we have changes in price and can look back at November of last year or January of last year and say, hey, this is what we charged that month. How's it compared to what we're doing now with our occupancy? So now we're getting some real data that makes sense from month to month to month, because it does change. And so currently prices downtown so far have continued to go up because of the percentage is still a bit high. But the prices in Hiawatha have started to go down some. And then of course in zone 3, which is from Chase East, is even going down more. We're lowering that because once we did that the first time, we got like from a 5% usage to like a 70% in a week. So in zone 3. So it's now is it $3 now?
$3.
$3 for all day. So, and again, it gets them out of the core. So that's kind of the plan where this progressive is starting to work well as we look at summer versus winter, which the two are different. So, but that's going to give us our pricing ability to change it. And yes, my belief is downtown will continue to go up for a while. We'll continue to push, and we'll try to push people to Hiawatha. And then that tram service should then be that thing like, oh, no big deal. Let me stop here in zone 3 and maybe we have to consider going in further down by the chamber. I don't know. So we can hit zone 3 better. So that may be the option.
So not to get us kind of off topic or too far ahead, but I mean, to me, we need to start building that expectation that, hey, you have every right to park downtown. It's just going to cost you if you're in a personal vehicle. But like when we bring the Dillon online, is that going to be zone 4? And how do we build that structure such that, not only are you keeping out of the downtown core, you're keeping them off of Manitou Avenue and other areas where, we want to encourage micro mobility.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Dillon. The Dillon is throwing a whole new wrench in our gears. It's kind of like if we were going to use a different satellite system, but it happens to be the Dillon at this point. We bought it. Juan's working hard on getting that thing ready. It's going to take a little while, but we're making progress. and talks about what we use it for, you know, and it's already been in council a couple times about maybe it's a COG parking lot, maybe it's an incline parking lot. And that's where we move it down and then we make more visitor parking possibly on Hiawatha, things like that could be the potential use of the Dillon. But you're right, it gets people right off of 24 in there. But we do have other challenges there with CDOT because of the queue and lane coming off of 24 is like a half a car length. So now we're going to get a whole backup. And so we're working with CDOT right now on how we're going to change that area, which was something being looked at anyway for even bike safety. You know, it's kind of the funny area where it's like, oh, look at this nice bike stuff. And then you go by the pool and sorry, no more bike stuff. Good luck in the Manitou. So we're going to be talking about even that whole area on as well on changing it for a better bike system that makes sense. And that includes possibly with our new Dillon purchase of a path that we're looking at getting to the Creek Walk. And then trying to get people maybe to go down to Creek Walk as a trail instead of on Manitou Avenue, you know, that could be a great place to go. And Juan, did you tell me Creek Walk? And that's part of the bike ride thing.
It's part of the pipe.
But can you tell the group real quick, some of the data showing the use of Creek Walk for
Yeah, so
biking into
for,
Manitou?
From 21 to 23, we had about 4,400 trips. That included the Creek Walk, Manitou and El Paso, where biking are usually taking their heaviest trips.
Bike ride
Pipes,
specifically, or?
Yeah, these were bike ride numbers, right?
bike ride numbers, right?
Yeah. And that doesn't include everybody else, right?
Right.
But it's impressive. And I think, Juan, you said too, they think most are going on Creek Walk because it's probably the safest way. And again, people will look for the safest path, but we also have to finish connections. We got things to do there.
Correct.
So that safest connection is non-obvious for the tourists from Oklahoma who just picked up bike ride at Bancroft Park in Old Colorado City.
Because of lack of signage. Okay.
It's signage, continuity. I mean, it's kind of like tribal knowledge to know the route. I mean, I'd love to Juan's new, maybe we'll use him as a test case and put him on a bike ride bike and say, find the safest route to Manitou and we'll test him.
So that's a whole different thing that we got to discuss at some point with this. When we talk about bikeability, is the lack of getting people to find them, the safe spots.
And it's complicated, right?
Yes.
So just a perfect example today. So the trail coming from Colorado Springs, so the Midland Trail into Manitou, there's a detour because at 31st, they're putting in the speed tables at the intersection. And so that's been closed now for months. And so you have to reroute around and along the sidewalk and all kinds of crazy stuff. And then as well, the bike route, so El Paso, so Pikes Peak, where it turns into El Paso, is closed because of the bridge construction over by the Buffalo Lodge. And that's also been closed for months. And so really, you know, you can take the trail, some extra zigzags, or you ride Manitou Avenue to get into Manitou now.
Okay.
Safest route.
All right. Leslie, I think you rose your hand, but you have to come up to the mic. If you want to ask any questions or say anything, we'd love to hear from you, I'm sure. Sure. And Bill can't see you with your hand up, so I thought I'd help out. Of course, we want to hear from everyone.
Well, and actually my question was with the trams, are you going to do some kind of fulfillment piece, brochure, rack card, something that we can get to the hotels? Because the tram is really cute. If they could catch it further down, because I've already had the RV parks calling me and saying, I'm seeing it. Can people catch it now? No, not quite. They're still in test phase. But the more we tell hotels about what's going on, the more we're going to get the ridership that we want. Trams, also Shuttle 36, and keep them out of driving into downtown.
Yeah, great question. And Juan assured me that we will have brochures. The PIO will be included in all this. And we're going to promote this thing. And that's something we got to know tonight from this group. You know, again, the initial thing was just thinking Hiawatha to, you know, we'll say the park. I'll just call it that. The park turnaround by the Bear, Kodiak Bear, I guess it's called. So Hiawatha to the Kodiak Bear. But, you know, maybe that's not the best approach. Maybe it should be the swimming pool to Hiawatha. I don't know. If we are trying to get people to Hiawatha to take, or from their walk downtown, or take a bike ride, or something else. I mean, maybe that's a better approach for this tram to hit some of the areas that maybe are not hit as much, because we do hit downtown with 2 shuttles. I mean, 33 is filled a lot, but not in the afternoon as much. 36 is empty a lot, so it has room. It's going to be a cutout, by the way. So we are reducing an empty bus that way, but I think that's a positive move too for a smaller vehicle on the road, number one, but still, I believe can hold up to 20 folks on there. So it's not bad. But I guess the question is, are we looking at the right section? And I would love all of you to give us your input if it's the right section, or should we shift it?
So the goal for the tram should be from arch to arch eventually in the coming years. But for this first phase, we need to probably focus, since we only have 2, we don't know how it runs. So, but going to the pool is an excellent idea. I am glad that we are being more realistic. During the meeting, people were very unrealistic about saying we should take it up to Crystal Hills. We were going to Safeway. No, that's not going to it's going to supplement the bus, it's not going to replace the bus at all. So I'm glad we're realistic about this, but I certainly going to the pool is an excellent idea. Promoting it that way. While I do have the floor here, about the buses, Mountain Metro is, since we're stuck with the rides and everything for the time being, we can't change that. But we can increase the ridership, I believe, by advertising more, educating a lot more also. So something we've been saying, to say people, you can get downtown Colorado Springs very easily. So then eventually with the VIA program, which is a great supplement to the bus, it's not going to replace the bus. It's not going to replace the tram. It's just going to be helping the bus system. And if we make the 33 and 36 the most ridership in the whole system, I think that would be something that we should be trying to achieve. So those are my topics on the tram and bus.
Rolf, if we went to the pool, where would you stop? Where would you think would be the stop?
I think it should be right at the pool. It's
Or
parking
what,
lot
the
right-
other direction though? Hiawatha?
Oh, yeah, no, it would go all the
Or
way
the
up
Ruxton.
to all the way up to Tubby's then.
Okay, so you would
So it would
still.
be a complete loop from Tubby's to the pool
Tubby's-
or Tubby's to Hiawatha, and just have it keep on going
Okay.
up and down Manitou Avenue. I know you like Canyon Avenue, but I don't know if that's really that good
Well,
idea, but
because there is no bus route there, we thought it could be a good place to get people maybe from the Cannon parking lot but it's, again, for a test run. You know, what Joy said earlier just sticks with me now. It's like, you know, the straightest route right now. Even Cannon veers a little bit off the straight route and path and disappears a little bit into Park. So maybe makes more sense to stay on Manitou Avenue for this first year testing. Try to get people from the pool area, which we do know people park there, and then try to get into downtown somehow, walking, I suppose. But we're not encouraging them necessarily to park at the pool, but people do want to come in. They might use the pool and want to go downtown. And instead of getting in a car again, maybe they stay there and go do that. We'll just have to talk about the pool.
the pool is just to get the motel traffic. They could walk from there.
Right.
To walk,
Yeah.
right, Leslie? I mean, at least the owners could say, hey, you only have to walk to the pool.
Yeah, or I guess if the Dillon opens, it could always be, it's not much further. Go to the Dillon.
You can go to Dillon.
Or
and we can
anybody
pick
in
them up
zone
from there.
4 parking lot in front of the Manitou Automotive, anywhere on that
Yeah.
stretch down to the chamber needs to be serviced by something.
Leslie, on the hotels, like, I mean, we have limits where we probably can't go all the way down to all the hotels down there on the URA area, I'll call it. But if they went to the Dillon or to the pool, would that be helpful? Or is that still missing the key hotels?
I think it's close enough Like Days Inn is not far from the Dillon.
Right.
Magnuson's across the street. So Holiday Inn's right there. So those are close enough and people could actually get off at the Dillon and walk to Adams. It's not that far. They could walk to get their car. If they drop off their car, it's not that far. It's within a block. Those are not, unless for the tram, that would work really well. But I will say that with the Dillon, if you're going to encourage Hagen incliners to park there, you've got to have a bus that will go up Roxton because they won't do the change.
Yeah, that would be Mountain, once we do that, would have to be Mountain Metro doing that for us. Yeah. Yeah, it won't be ours.
When is the Dillon going to be actually operable?
Boy,
Assuming you solve.
you
the
put me on the spot
access.
for that one. We're shooting for the summer. Yeah, we really
Right.
are. And even if it ends up being just a dirt lot, if we can get it functional as we're moving ahead on different phases, because there's going to be possible a bathroom on one. We still have to look at that brick building, maybe a bathroom. It's already has a nice structure, just needs to be changed inside. Then there's two other buildings where I'm trying to determine their use, but we got to go to council and ask on the one building, would it be a community area? And then the smaller one is going to be a storage area for the parking department and maybe an attendant for the facility. So right now, we have to demo it, asbestos removal, demo, all that's going to be happening in the next few weeks. And then we're going to have to see, we're keeping the asphalt as is right now because a lot of it's asphalted. So we would keep that for now. Add where we need to, maybe in grid, and then, later decide if we want some kind of different surface in there, but currently use what's there. So we're not wasting something that's in good shape. And then just trying to get parking going in there initially. So again, some of that could be blocked off for continuing the bathroom renovations while we actually have we'd have some porta potties and running some parking out of there. But the other thing is Mountain Metro does have a bus stop nearby, but it won't be as good as it hopefully will be once we get the parking lot completed. So next year is more realistic that it'll be in a better situation, but we are going to try to shoot for some kind of access this summer if we can.
And just so you know, I wouldn't bother the trees.
Yes.
There's enough tree controversy going on now.
When we went out there, we said right away to the demo company that we want to keep all the trees, and we're actually going to expand their footprint of dirt so that we can do pollinator plants.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna do everything. There might be one tree or two have to go just because we gotta, but we'd be really careful. And I believe they're Siberian elms, so they're a little bit different feel, but they are mature trees that provide oxygen and stuff we need in this world. So we will
And the canopy.
protect them, you bet. And we don't want a heat island. So we truly are going to try to protect all the big trees to protect that piece of land there. So thanks for that reminder too. But we already told them, don't touch our trees. We love our trees. So.
Okay, I forgot one other thing about the bus system. Besides the ramping up of education and advertising, KRCC, the bulletin, everything, but also look into, we already give residents free parking. How about residents free bus pass? So many lots to get them in the habit of trying to do it. Every resident, you won't be mailed, but if you want a bus, 10 slots or 20, maybe the city could do that to start educating us people to use the bus. Something to think about.
That's, we were definitely talking about that. The same thing for residents where maybe they even get 50. I mean, if we do charge, let's say we charge $1 for VIA, let's say we decide to do VIA. The idea is maybe residents get 50 free rides or, whatever. I'm just making up that number to match what we're doing currently to give them that benefit of being a resident of Manitou Springs. We can also look at what we're currently doing with our even parking downtown of even for the businesses to maybe there's a pass system. And VIA said they can work with us on everything we want to do to try to make it work for our 3 groups, right? We have the visitor. Well, I should start, we have the resident, which is the one here 12 months out of the year lives here. You know, then you have the businesses who are here running a business in town, which are important. And then you have the visitors, which are more seasonal. But we have to see how do we manage all three groups for the benefit of everyone, but keeping in mind that our residents and business folks need relief and, you know.
With your discussions with Mountain Metro,
Yeah.
would they give us a discount if we bought a bulk rate of so many users? For Mountain Metro, not via.
For the bus pass that they
for
were
a
talking
bus
about.
Pass for residents to see how much that would cost. Not everybody needs to do it. But if you're a resident, maybe we could give you 10 per year, 20 per year.
Let me
What I'm trying to
look
do
into
is
that. I
Educate
don't
people
know.
to use the bus. I'm a Coloradoan. I'm very afraid of the bus, but I've started using it now. I'm from Manitou. We never use the bus. So educating people, giving them a free bus pass, I can get to downtown really easy on the bus now. So anyway.
So
think
a
about that.
quantity discount. Let me reach out
Ask
to them.
Say, hey, we
Okay.
want to ramp up 33
Yeah.
and 36.
I don't think we asked that question, Juan, did we? I don't remember.
We
What's
didn't
it?
ask, but I know, we didn't ask, but I know.
Not the
they-
discount though, just the use of the pass system, right? Or did
Correct.
I miss it?
He did mention I think you were there, that he did mention like, they did have something for like, low income.
Well,
and
There's,
ADA.
they offered up a couple of options, potential options. One was to just give the bus pass, but another was a city managed portal,
Yes.
which we could manage. And if it got to a certain level, we could cut it off, like Via was talking about the maximum number. So staff was asked to look into.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think this might be a little different though, and maybe I'm wrong. And I know that part. We are going to look into that. But I think the idea of us telling Mountain Metro we want to buy a certain quantity every year, would they give us a discount then we can apply to either the residents to use or for at least the city to get a discount? And I don't know if they ever told me there was a discount for quantity and numbers, just that they could go into the system, purchase them, and the city could buy them.
Yeah.
But they never gave us a discount price if we bought like 5,000 hours worth or
No,
something.
my sense was is that the portal would incorporate something like that, but it would really, it sounded like the portal was a new technology. So, but yeah, all those questions need to be worked through,
Yes,
but it sounded very promising.
I agree.
I had two topics, but I saw James over there with his hand up for about 5 minutes before, so I want to offer him the opportunity to
He has to
speak
come to a mic though.
first.
So that was back on the hotel subject. And I think that's a good use case example of Via is they have more flexibility to get into places that a fixed bus route can't do. We're talking about 2 shuttle buses that we're trying to figure out best routes. We can focus those routes on really the busiest areas and then allow Via to supplement and bring those people to those fixed routes. And in addition to that, since we're going to be using that type of setup, that's also going to drive more riders just to those fixed bus routes in general. Because you've got a bunch of people that are being actively promoted to use public transit at that point.
Thank you.
So two comments. So you asked for input on the tram routes. So I, at this point, would not be in favor of having the tram go to the pool or Dillon. To me, that feels like we're duplicating the 36. And I think that's going to cause confusion amongst riders because you're going to have a cutaway, then you're going to have a tram. I don't know which one is which and what's the hours and, is one better or different, go different places because they're not branded the same. So having that separate downtown route feels better to me based on what I know right now. And then the second thing, going back to Leslie's comment about trying to publicize, do we do any search optimization? Like if you put in, how to get to Manitou Springs, whatever, not in a car or, by bus, do we optimize results to take us to the chamber page or to the city page that says, hey, here's the ways and that are clear and, very few most clicks to get there.
Well, I know that Alex does most of that for us, and I know he has improved many of the when you go into the and do a search engine, you put in like Manitou, and it definitely is starting to come up to where it should in our system. So I do believe he is doing that. As you may or may not know, he's leaving us, but our new PIO started this week and is being trained by him, who's going to be great. And I'll just ask him about that too, and making sure we're staying on that so that when people do put in the information, they are getting the correct information, maybe some direction on where to find it. I mean, all that's all important, no different than your scenario with the bike connection there from Colorado Springs, where people get lost. If they can't find it, then they give up, right? It has to be simple.
Yeah, because on that topic, I know I had a conversation with Alex, the different mapping apps. If you put in, the apps, you can pick your mode, walking, biking, or whatever. And if you are, hey, I want to get from Colorado Springs to Manitou, Apple Maps will route you down Manitou Avenue, right, is the best route. Google Maps will put you on El Paso, those kind of things. And so, providing feedback to those organizations to improve that would be good. And as well, just to recognize that we have different audiences, right? The residents, you probably can publicize more through the Pikes Peak Bulletin potentially. And, for visitors, millennials, they're going to want the Google search or the app type stuff.
That's right. I think we came to a point, Juan, where we might need to do a vote and Bill, a vote on the route. So we have guidance when we go, I believe in a couple of weeks here to council again on the trans. We do a presentation, maybe it's in March, but we need to know that information so we have time to really set it up.
Let's line out the two alternatives.
Okay, there's two, and I don't know if anyone has any third, but the two I got, number one was Tubby to Dillon was presented as a possibility. And then the Hiawatha to Tubby's was one that was presented. I don't know if there, and then maybe there was the pool to Hiawatha as an idea. And then again, keep in mind, because we own these things, we can change them. So
Yeah.
if something like this ain't working, okay, let's give enough notice, get out there, talk to our PIO, and maybe in 2 weeks we have it shifted. That's how quick we can work versus 8 months, 9 months, 12 months. So pool to Hiawatha, and then maybe pool, I believe it was pool maybe to Tubby's.
Okay, two alternatives.
So I guess,
Just before we
yes, sir.
make a vote on that, I guess like there's one, the comment I wanted to make is I would like to know more about the test plan and the test data in order to make a recommendation. I think we'd like to know what the capabilities of these are. It is disappointing to hear that they're not suitable to go up the hills. And I'd like to learn more about that, particularly if we're contemplating additional purchases. We might want to know what we want to look at for future vehicles. I wanted to drill into the comment that Carl made about the fact that we've got these trams and there's a danger of confusing with some of the existing routes. So we're talking about potentially putting the trams where we see a lot of traffic. Do we think that this might solve the problem? Is putting trams where there's a lot of congestion already going to get people to get out of their cars and start using the trams? I'm not sure. I'm also not sure what I think we're being asked to vote on now on routes. To me, it feels we don't have enough information to make a solid recommendation. I think it would be important to start getting them out there and start. It almost doesn't matter where we put them, but to start really using them in real life and to collect some data about how they're used. And yeah, I think I'm not sure what our objective is right now in making a recommendation for the shuttles.
We need to
The trams.
we need to have exactly what you just said. We would like to know what the group thinks on where we should start this real life testing. Because otherwise, we're doing some basic tests right now, Corey. Just driving them up and down the street. But to actually go out and promote this and schedules and get brochures, we want to have one of these plans that seems like a good starting point to test it in real life. So it's exactly what you're asking for, but and we can do our own, pick our own spot. But maybe others have a better idea of a better location like you brought up on, is it better to be in a low congested area? Is it better to be in a high? Those are good questions. I don't have that answer either because we haven't never tried this before. Ever.
Is it possible to share the test plan and the test data with the group?
Yeah, I don't know how much Juan has collected so far, if it's ready
We
to
just have,
shoot out.
what do we have about for the battery, the mileage?
But can you get on a mic? I mean, if you want to bring one over to you too, we have an extra one right here. You might want to just grab it and.
So for the tram data, we ran about 4 days. We did 1 day with heat. And what we were seeing is a pretty substantial hit to just drive time. So after that one testing period, we focused mainly on no heat or AC, and just trying to see what we could get going around the downtown area and the flat areas. And we were seeing about 33 to 45 miles on a charge.
So are the buses stored indoors or outdoors? I mean, like temperature has a huge impact on battery life, right? And so winter driving conditions versus, hey, 60 degrees and it's stored inside in a heated garage will have a huge impact, right?
Yeah, so temperatures are a big factor with batteries, specifically with charging. Once they're charged, it's not as much of an impact as far as battery drain. But we will be testing both in the wintertime, which we've done, and then the summertime in higher temperatures. That'll kind of give us a different set of data that we can work off of. But as far as I know, the plan is to test again in the summertime with similar variables just to see kind of what we have. But just in those 4 trips, mileage was pretty consistent. It ranged pretty much 33 to 45. And we basically started 100% to 20% on those rides.
So that's it. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Julie.
Just one of the things is that, we have said to the community that we're going to have the trams and we're going to test them. We're going to do something and see what routes. So I think the community knows the routes may change, but they want to see something done. And if we do have shortage of miles, I think we should go ahead and say Hiawatha to Tubby's and see how that goes. And then see if later in a shorter period of time, we can say to the hotels or to the Dillon. And Dillon may or may not be ready. We just don't know yet. But
Yeah,
I think we need to take some action since we have the trams, and I know people are talking about them, and we don't want to lose the momentum of that. And we need data, and we can't get it unless we put them on the road.
yeah, including the people factor, right? I mean, just the fact how
Yeah.
they use them, and I mean, all that has to be tried. And the thing is, always more goes into this, right? We don't have staff to drive them yet. Our current staff is used for parking and mobility areas that are outside a transportation group. We're looking at VIA possibly to provide drivers for us, or we may hire drivers, so that we're also working that out with HR right now on which path we go there and costs. But we do need to try something. And so again, we could just pick what we decided, but I thought it would be good if you all had a better idea on that path, then give it to us. And by May, that's what we're going to shoot for, get some test results, get real people, real-time reactions. I do believe we need to get out there and start using these things. But it truly won't happen probably till May, because we also need to talk to council and see what their thought is and what they would like to see. But it would be nice that we can go in and say, we talk to the MAPS board, we have we all decided we'd like to do this route as the test route and see how this all works. And the nice part is that monthly we can come back with how it's working and get the data that
Yeah,
people
Carl,
need.
I was gonna say, we are gonna start when we say testing them and getting that exposure is right now we're hiring to get that started in March, especially for spring break, and we're gonna continue running them. And that's how we're gonna get that data. But like to answer to your batteries, like James said, once they're 100%, there's no issue. They just charge slower, because we do have like the heavy duty battery, lithium batteries, and they do hold the charge pretty well. But it's just a slow charge on, during weather conditions. Go ahead.
My recommendation would be from the pool to the Ruxton roundabout for a few reasons. One, I think it's important to service that parking area between, right in front of the high school hill and the Chamber of Commerce. That's really an area that I see as underserved. The pool would be a really nice, it's a parking lot and it's also a community center, right? I think people will be using that to go to the pool. I love the idea of keeping the route straight. So even veering off onto Canyon, just having a turnaround right at the Ruxton roundabout, I think that makes sense. If it were up to me, back in the day, we would have put a roundabout at Tubby's turnaround. But hey, that's a different deal.
I'll write that down. Maybe, you never know.
So I just want to second Joy. I think we should start simple and collect data. And so I just wanted to say that, no matter what option we pick, we should kind of have a hypothesis, right? The whole Hiawatha to Soda Springs Park, hey, we're trying to get people from parking in the core and have them park in Hiawatha and test that. And, Luke I hadn't thought of it, like, hey, if we go to the pool, we're going to try and attract this audience, and are we successful? Though I will say, I mean, I see a lot of people going to the pool, wanting to go to the pool, but also to actually get on the trail, the Creek Walk Trail, to walk and hike. And so, and they're coming from, sometimes outside of Manitou Springs. So I don't know whether that worked, but hey, it's a hypothesis that Luke presented and we should go test it.
That's great. And we will have to be the hedgehog soon and really just give us that answer and vote on it. So just so you know, time wise, it's time. And again, sorry if we can't get 100% approval on this, but we just need that 51%. So good.
I'm just going to point out that right now you have 33 runs from Hiawatha to Ruxton. 20-minute headways this time of year, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So if you're going to run the trams, you're going to duplicate what they're already doing. If you go to the pool, it does expand it a little bit. And then 36 is not running yet. So
Have you tried to get off the 33 downtown?
no,
It won't pick.
it won't
drives
pick-
it won't pick you up in downtown, usually because they're full, but
So
they're full when they leave Hiawatha.
it's a minor point, but like, I've seen people on the 33 that are like, oh, I want to get off downtown, and the bus driver's like, no, you're going to the COG. And they
It's
won't
almost a
take,
direct express route
It's
to
a-
the COG.
yeah, so
really is.
it is duplicative from they're going on the same road, but not from a get on, get off.
That's good to know.
I don't know
We
that
send
that,
people to
I
ride
don't
it
know
all
that
the
that's
time.
the case. When you pull that ring bell, they'll stop at the next stop. I don't mean to disagree, but that's wrong.
I think it's more the pickup side. And so we know that for a fact.
Well,
know
Metro
that
is
for a fact.
actually, aren't they chartered to stop at every stop, even if they are
Yeah.
full, to tell folks, sorry, we're full, and then
That's what they
continue
do.
on? Well,
That's
yeah,
what they
well,
do.
that's point in case then. They'll
Yes.
stop. They're stopping at every stop.
Correct. You're right about they do stop, but they just can't pick
The
up or
COG
drop
does not
off.
have an express route
No.
bus, and I
Well-
don't want that to ever be, said and
Let-
assumed that
Yes, sir.
that's the case.
Yes, sir. I think we just look at that as, because the majority of riders are incliners, actually, not even COG. But it is servicing that area of Ruxton, whether it's COG, incliners, probably not many residents. But they are required to stop and let people know. Occasionally they have driven by though with new drivers, but that's like, human error. And they do stop generally, but they normally can't pick up anybody. I won't say they don't drop people off, but they definitely can't pick up people. So I think the point was though, that this tram could be a supplement to that for people that can't ride 33 because it's full. So maybe it's available for a few more folks. And if they're already on it from the pool, then they have a spot before it even gets close to Hiawatha and maybe gets filled with incliners that might want to get closer to the incline or cog or wherever they're trying to go up on top of Ruxton. But
So we've got the pool to the roundabout as one option.
Yep.
Joy, you had an option. Hiawatha to Tubby's.
that was a Hiawatha Tubbies. There's yeah, there's several. Pool to the Ruxton roundabout was the last one suggested. Pool to Tubbies. I don't know if I'm adding one here. Pool to Hiawatha, Hiawatha to Tubbies, Tubby to Dillon. I mean, there's a lot of options here.
Okay, let's cut the options down.
Okay.
Then.
What,
Let's just
what won't
end up
work
with
here?
two.
What do we want to eliminate?
Well, the Dillon's not online yet, so to go under the underpass to have a not so
That's outta
great
here.
turnaround, I think.
Okay.
eliminate
How
Dillon.
about the pool to the
Well,
roundabout?
Tubby to Dillon's gone because we don't have a Dillon yet.
Pardon?
Dillon, the Dillon one's out because we don't
That's
have a
out.
Dillon.
It's the pool.
So, okay, so then highway, so we just want to look at the pool or the highway, Hiawatha to Tubbies?
Look at the pool. Yeah.
Pool to the roundabout. That's one I've got.
Okay,
Okay.
so pool to Ruxton roundabout, pool to Tubbies, is that that's not the same? Pool to Hiawatha. Those are the pool ones. And then eliminating the pool would be Hiawatha to Tubbies. So should we vote on one?
Just a sec, sorry. We had pool to Ruxton
Can
Roundabout
we write those down?
and
Yeah.
pool to Tubby's.
Okay, so you
Well-
withdraw
well,
that one?
Well, just
Pool to,
That was your
roundabout.
suggestion, right?
yes,
You want to pull?
which roundabout?
to
Ruxton.
Armadillo, to Ruxton.
Ruxton roundabout.
Ruxton roundabout,
Yeah.
that will save some battery life.
And the other one that I wrote down was pool to Hiawatha.
Oh, and
That
just
one's
go pool
gone.
to Hiawatha.
That one's gone.
Yeah,
Oh, you're done?
Well, we're
Pool-
down to one option then.
no, we're down to two. We're go
What's the
from
other one?
Hiawatha to Tubby's. And the other one is gonna be from the pool to Ruxton roundabout.
So just to go back to Corey's
Okay.
comment, if I may, for a second. So with these routes, what the piece that we're missing that would kind of be critical to success as well is knowing what the headways are going to be. If we're only running a single tram, what's the timing for that, right? The longer route, you're going to have longer headways, which means you won't have as much ridership. So just something to consider. Maybe we can guess, but just that would be really useful.
Okay. The Ruxton roundabout and Tubby's are about the same thing.
It's going up Canton Avenue. That's the.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a left turn, so you're gonna come back down the avenue.
So Google says one way from the Mountain Man to the pool is 4 minutes. Take in traffic and stops, probably about 10 minutes.
Okay, so we got two options. Hiawatha to Tubby's, pool to roundabout. Okay, all in favor of pool to roundabout? Raise your hand.
Pool to roundabout.
Ruxton Roundabout.
Ruxton roundabout. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's all of us. Okay, sounds like that's it, Roy. Oh, you're not voting for that. Okay, let me ask the other one. Hiawatha to Tubby's. Well, you got two votes.
And would you remember to write that down, that we had 5? And then one person, what the objection was, so we have that documented. Well, you voted differently, but it's nice to have that documented.
Right.
Sorry. When what we'd like from the group then, and the chair specifically, is a memo then to talk about what this vote was about and then how the voting occurred and who voted yay or nay. So that is put on our council presentation so council knows who was for and against. And if you are for and against and you want to add the reasons, especially maybe if you're against and you lost per se, you might want to put down the reasons why you thought something else would be better. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think council has to look at the end and make a final decision anyway. And we're advising council and so are you. So we're just going to give our input. But I personally, from a city side, I don't know about you and James, but the Pool to Ruxton roundabout seems like a great test run for me. I have
Yeah.
no problem with that route at all.
Pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Carl, could you give me your, just write it out, send it to me, email.
Sure. I don't think anybody loses here, right? I think we should try something and collect data, so it's not a win or lose.
And I promise, Corey, the idea from this is we're gonna Corey, that we're gonna have data. We're gonna get data, and then every month we need to bring how it's working. Once we start it in May, June, we just start bringing the data. Hey, look, here's the ridership, here's the real time pickups, things like that. So the idea is now we're gonna have some real data from a summer of a route that we're working with. And if at any point it's just failing miserably, then we just might have to make a decision to change it a little bit on the fly. If it's not working, then we'll get back with the board and either email you out and let you know we've made adjustment because it's not working, either battery lifetime or whatever may happen with that. But no, we appreciate that guidance on that. So thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, Juan, if you want to
All right.
continue.
All right. We got to move this along. James, it's not working. Okay. So the perspective of the shuttles, we always got to look at the potential implications, and that's straight across from residents, businesses, and visitors. Looking at the positive, the negative, and concerns. And just the explorations, like we're talking about, what are the best routes? And these are important factors to consider as we move forward, looking at not only the trams, but even looking at the VIA options as we move forward. And then just final thoughts and takeaways from our discussion.
Anybody?
My final thoughts are I'm excited to get a tram working in May and get some data. So
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. And I know it's limited, but that was the whole testing process and what we had to go through because you just don't know. I will say this, when Carl brought up about the cold and everything, it is possible we get longer life in the summer, and that's been proven with the cold weather. They're finding that out with some of these now sub-zero temps that it was on the news that EV cars are having trouble holding their charge and things like that. So we may find the summertime it's going like 6 hours before we have to charge it. We don't know yet, but we sure will let you know if that happens because that'll be exciting. So can I ask one more thing as we go through this is we do need to know what you think about VIA, and we are going to present that to council, but I would love to know if the board supports and how many support and not support as we present at the council as well, probably in March. And some reason March is in my head.
Yeah. And one thing I do want to share about VIA is that, again, this is like we're looking at this long term. One of the things that they've done for other municipalities is that they've like pretty much taken over the city over their transit system. And I think I think they're going to complement the trams in a great way, especially assisting all the residents, where it's going to really eliminate congestion, and we will be able to look at, more possibilities for bike lanes, pedestrian walkways, and also it's just their response time is very quick. I think right now with Mountain Metro, there's a lot of red tape, a lot of restrictions. It's kind of hard to make adjustment. Where in the long term, if we were to go with possibly VIA, once we start tracking ridership and it's a bigger picture, is that we'll be able to make decisions a lot quicker than we do with Mountain Metro in the long run.
The concern I've got is, are we truly gonna get a system that gets people to Safeway? And that is important, at least in my
So,
world.
and Sebastian, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things we got from the survey was, we're a food desert here in Manitou, right? So that's what they call it, I think. But getting vehicles out to Safeway was one of the high priorities for that survey group. So with VIA, we're going to be telling them where we want service to start and end. So we could say, and very welcome to bring that, I mean, we can bring it to council that, look, and we will on the survey, we will let council know about the survey regardless, that people are saying that's a high priority to get to Safeway and get food. So with our negotiations with VIA then is going to be that Safeway becomes a drop-off point or a virtual bus stop. So now folks can get on there, drive the Safeway, get food. The only challenge to that, and I never really talked about Sebastian about that, is that groceries and things, but it's easier to bring it, I believe, on a VIA vehicle than it would be to put it on a bus. Because if you have like 6 groceries, the Mountain Metro policy is that the people come first, your groceries are second. So if you can't carry it on your lap, then you can't bring it on the bus. But VIA, I think, would allow the possibility of them to put food in the trunk of the vehicle and be able to get food home, which would also be another benefit. So keep in mind, the VIA thing has to be discussed on what we want from it. But the idea is that whole scope of where Sebastian showed the map of Manitou would be serviced. And then I would propose, and Juan, we talked about it already, we would propose that we go to the Safeway as well as another stop, and we add that to the whole route system.
Yeah, if you could look at that, I
Yeah.
think that's really, I think, a high priority for a lot of people that, don't want to get their car out of the garage or whatever.
So is what I would want from this group is the second vote now would be, does the map board support city staff to present to council using a pilot VIA over the summer, if we can get the funds, and test it out for 3 months to include Safeway and use it as one more stepping stone into trying to help the residents and their transit challenges here in town. So I guess we want to know if the board supports us in going to council with that.
What?
Um,
What's the trade-off?
there is nothing.
I guess, I wanted to be clear, this was a question that came from me. There is a substantial upfront cost to invest.
Sure.
What else could we do with that money? What are the trade-offs that we'd be making? I mean,
I have no
it's
idea yet.
fairly easy for us to say, hey, it sounds like a neat idea, but balanced against what,
Yep.
right?
Yep. I would say we have to start trying things. I mean, we don't know. And I can't sit here today after several years of looking at things in Manitou. We've tried some things, and this is just another trial. And everything's no different than the trams themselves and the cost. So there's going to be cost to this. But the pilot gives us a reasonable cost, in my opinion. It's a lot more that can be absorbed in our parking budget, and see if it's worth it. And if it's not, we're done. If it's worth it, then we found maybe a solution. But we have to start trying some things, and we're trying to find ways to improve our transit right now, because that we have trams in place. So we're looking at, is this a way to support the residents as well? And maybe even visitors who want to utilize it, and to get people to the Safeway. So that's why we're wondering if this would be a good way to look at it and present to council as maybe a supplement to our tram system and the Mountain Metro system. And we start seeing what may or may not work in Manitou, because we don't have to test it. And that, I think that's with anything we do. So that's our opinion. Of course, everyone can have their own, but
I would say that, we have a pretty strong council with lots of opinions, and this is going to be discussed and dissected and looked at. So what you're asking
talking about.
As I understand it, the purple is what Pike Ride's service area is, and that means, I think what that means is you could leave your bike anywhere in the purple area, not necessarily just at a hub.
Those are those are hubs,
The
Oh,
purple, the purple circles are, but
right?
the whole, the purple smear.
So
is
the
what they
purple
call a service.
outline is the service, is that the service area? So they would have to expand that service area outside that to make it work.
Well, I'm
Juan,
not
are
sure
are they
would have
proposing
to,
they do
but it would
that?
make sense that they.
You
would.
have to do that, yes.
Well, do they?
Well, if they're gonna put Pike Ride and give us and do Pike Ride with us, they're gonna have to do it. Otherwise, it's pointless, right?
Right, right.
Okay.
So the service area determines the amount you get charged for where you park. So if you park out, to Corey's point, if you end your trip outside the service area, it's a huge fee normally.
Okay, so,
Especially, and so you can leave your Pike Ride bike and a trip at a hub and it's, it's the base charge. If it's within the service area, but not at a hub, it's a higher charge. And if it's outside the service area, it's a penalty charge.
got it. So Juan, we need to check with Pike Ride
Mhm.
on expansion of that, or I don't know if it's worth it.
Well, maybe it is okay because it just means you have to park at that hub and you can't park it anywhere else is potentially what it means.
Okay.
It'd be a purple island, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Does
Maybe.
this group have any suggestions on how we should we look to expand the geo fence or whatever? And make it so it's cheaper everywhere? I think Nancy said yes, probably. From a bike perspective? Yeah. So we need to check on that one.
Okay.
Why, can we increase that geo fencing area once we put in the new Pike Ride outside the current geo fence?
Or maybe get their recommendation on it. Like, there could be a nuance we're missing, but generally I
Okay.
would agree. It makes sense to expand the service
I'm
area.
glad you brought that up. Thanks.
No, thanks, Corey.
You've been working with Pike Ride on these, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah, so hopefully they've taken that into consideration as well.
But are they not proposing to expand the service area?
They are. They are. And we wanted to add actually more, but we figured we start with 5. And, as we're tracking, more trips and, ridership, we'll be able to determine that.
But Juan, I just want you to assure that, because I think I understand now that even if we expand the Pike Station, if they don't expand the grid, then there's gonna be a higher price if they park it outside that current purple grid. So we have
Okay.
to make sure that grid gets expanded, or what their recommendation is on why it wouldn't be,
Mhm.
so that we encourage the use. So I think that's really the key. Did I get that right? Okay, thank you.
Sensible to me to expand the service area. They're not proposing that.
Okay. So this is a signage that we plan on putting on the main road. Because the Pike Hubs are not on the main road, we will use this signage to give them directional signage, on where to locate them. And this is the first ones at the ball field on El Paso. And then you're looking at the next one on Lover's Lane.
And that would be the Wichita lot corner, right, Juan? We'd have to get permission from Metro District, but, okay.
The next one's at, on Cannon, 124 Cannon. And then the one on the right on 1104, Manitou Avenue, we actually, that's a wrong picture. It's actually, that location would be on the left corner, right next to the 2 parking spaces that are on Park.
It's right by the Park Bridge. So it will be on the east side of Park Bridge, I think.
On the east side.
Yeah, so right down there's a couple parking spots. There's also a nice platform like that it could be put. And this one was some concerns that it's in the middle of the intersection, so.
And then this is the last one, 419 Ruxton Avenue. Yes. All right. And this is, so what they're proposing is about, it's about $35,000 for the Pike, for all five hubs. This will eventually increase more biking, more ridership. And as we start to expand, we can add more hubs as we gather that data. Questions?
Is that $35,000, that's per year?
Per year.
So it's not just for the cost of installing the hubs, but it's per year forever to provide the service.
Correct.
I see.
And is that 35,000 for all of the hubs or just the 5 additional ones?
For the 5 additional ones.
So we're already paying, do we know how much we're paying for the existing 3 per year?
I have the numbers for that. We've already paid,
I think it's 50,000,
it was like 50,000.
but yeah,
So an additional 35 to add 5 more annually. Okay.
Correct.
Is this the briefing that's going to council?
Yes, this is what I'm going to present to council on the 13th.
Okay. Can I talk with you guys sometime? 'Cause
yes, ma'am.
it's not gonna
Okay,
fly like it is, I don't think.
I'll reach out to you.
Yeah.
Nancy, are you able to share your concerns?
Sure. There's, it's just total costs or total numbers for 3 years as opposed to trend data. Have we been increasing numbers? The cost data is not incorporated into it all. The mayor always does the cost per ride. The mayor is not particularly supportive of Pike Ride. So he does cost per ride, so we have to look over time. There's also been significant costs for administrative overhead versus installing the hubs and so on. So getting that cost data down is going to be very critical. So I think I think most of council is very supportive of Pike Ride, but not all of council, and particularly the mayor always has lots of questions. And if you could alleviate some of his concerns up front in the briefing, I think you would do yourselves a big favor. And Carl's always at those meetings. So Carl, do you have anything to add?
Would it be worthwhile to have MAP vote on this and whether we support and something to as well as say, hey, MAP supports the expansion of Pike Ride, just so it's additional input?
I think that would be great as long as, yeah.
That's
Yeah, I
a-
think
that's a
that would
good
be
idea,
helpful.
Carl.
Okay, vote number 3.
So the question is, do we support the additional Pike Ride stations at an approximate expense of $35,000 a year? Is that the question? So all in favor, please say aye, raise your hand. And that is a unanimous vote. Okay.
I just have to say also better pictures on exactly where the locations are. Because there's, Parab has been very concerned that it's going to be taking up space in Soda Springs and, that it'll be lost in different places. So really good visuals on where the stations are going to be. You've got the map and you've got small visuals, but it's still not easy to identify where they're going to end up.
Okay, we'll work on cleaning that up.
And maybe looking at the surrounding where the stations are going to be. Just sort of a round picture of trees.
So of the whole location kind of
Yeah,
what
so
it's
to see a
affecting.
Picture of it expanded, because I think there'll be concerns that it's going to destroy Manitou somehow.
Okay, maybe with our new PIO, he has a pilot license for drone, so maybe we can get some drone shot. Okay, we'll work on that. I think it's a great idea. So you have a good perspective of what it's affecting in the area too. Is it like with the Parab question? That's why we moved it from that corner where the Kodiak Bear is, because it's a pocket park. So that was kind of the concern. Yeah.
There's also a sense that Pike Ride is charging us a lot, City of Manitou Springs, a lot more than they're charging Colorado Springs for similar services on a relative basis. So
Okay.
that's.
So maybe investigate that a little bit.
Yeah.
To have data. Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. Appointment of officers for 2024. First thing is, anybody interested in being chair?
I'm interested in nominating you.
Thank you. Any further nominations?
I'm interested in putting my name forward for the chair position.
So Bill, maybe before we talk nominations, can we discuss the process and how we're going to vote? Is it going to be, because there's chair and vice chair? So it's
Yeah,
going to be
there's
the,
chair, vice chair, and there's a list of additional people that, and I don't have it in front of me right now, but
so are we going to go with like the top vote getter gets chair and the second gets vice chair, or separate votes for each, or what's the proposal?
I think we just vote on what we already have in front of us, which is just the chair, and then we vote on vice chair. Is, at
That's
least
how we did it in the past.
that's the way we've done
Yeah,
it.
there's no clear in the code, no clear way to do it. So as long as the group can agree upon a method, that's fair. So the proposal, Bill, was you to ask about the chair first and get we have two people interested right now?
Yeah, Corey's interested in
Okay.
being chair.
And are you still interested?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so you have two people. Then we would vote on those and then
We
we
vote
would
on
do
those.
for a vice chair. And then there was a third one technically in the code about a note taker.
That's the third one I was looking.
Yes, so we are asking as a staff if anyone has interest to be a note taker. The good news is that we just found out that Zoom provides IA now, AI. It's getting late. I'm going backwards here. All right.
Boy, we can't lose
Yeah.
those.
And so now it does a summary. And then Corey gave me some good references on different boards on good summary notes. So we're going to see if we can improve upon them. But if someone in here was able to do notes from the group, that would be helpful to us if we don't have the staff. So we will ask the question, but obviously we'll provide it if we need to. So that's all I have. It's all yours.
Okay, we can do this by secret ballot, or we can just raise our hands. How do you, anybody have a preference? Do you have a preference how we proceed for it?
I guess there's a lot of ways we could do it. I mean, you and I could lead the room. We could just
But-
simply vote. We
You-
could-
Why don't we just vote?
Everybody just, I mean, to me, we've been working together a long time. If Corey votes differently than me, I don't get mad at him. Mostly.
Do either one of you want to say why you want to do it, continue doing, or why you want to be new? Maybe it's good that everyone hears what your plans would be if you want to move in there and what.
Yeah, I would like to. I guess, first of all, I'd like to recognize the contribution that Bill's made for many years as chair. I think as a general principle, it's healthy for groups to have a rotating chair and to give other people, a chance to help with steering the ship and setting things up with staff beforehand. I think my particular interest is I'm really interested in making this board really effective. And by that, I mean that we're making the right kind of decisions so that we can provide useful advice to council to help guide council. Also that we're making good use of staff time and providing good support for staff. I think it's very clear in our community that congestion and mobility are among our top concerns. And I'm committed to helping staff be effective at those things. And I think the third thing I'm really interested in is ensuring that on topics of mobility and parking, that we've got a very consistent and structured way for the community to have input and to have a wide range of input. So my statement or my commitment, if I were elected chair, is that I would be very open to hearing a wide range of opinions and making sure that all voices are heard. And it's been a pleasure to be the vice chair for a couple of years, and I'm interested in being the chair. Thank you for your consideration.
Yeah, and I'm coming from the point of view of incorporating exactly what you just said. But I think there's a component of being able to, shall I say, create an environment that's very positive and forward-looking and that works well with the city staff and city council. I think I have demonstrated over the years that I can do that. I have been on city council. I was mayor. And I think that it's a skill that all of us probably have in their kit bag. But I specifically like to put that forward as a positive thing to continue doing. So, having said all that, gee, I think we probably better leave the room, Corey, because we're going to vote for it ourselves.
I support that decision if you'd like.
Yeah, okay. You want us to stay? What do you want to do?
I'm okay with it either way. If
Okay. Okay, all in favor of me continuing as chair? I will vote for myself. Okay, those who favor Corey, being chair. 1, 2, 3, 4. You are chair. We'll finish out this meeting and then take over next time.
I would like to say, though, that Bill has been very good at keeping us together and keeping some negativity from affecting it. And having been experienced some of that negativity on this group, I certainly am not sure I will continue, but I'll wait and see. Thank you.
Okay, next item is appointment of vice chair. Who would like to be vice chair?
Bill, I'll throw my hat in the ring for vice chair.
I would also like to be considered for vice chair.
Okay. Would either one of you like to talk about why you want to be vice chair?
I'd like to see Manitou in a way that is clean commuting for a lot of people. And I think this group has the potential to do that. Visitors, and everybody knows I work for the Cog Railway, you know, the locals, everybody should know that I was born and raised here in Manitou. The incliners, people should know that I don't do it as much as I should, but I do enjoy the incline. There's a lot of stakeholders that I believe that I can at most times accurately represent. And that includes small businesses, that includes residents, that includes, you know, a lot of different folks. And I'd like to continue that support of however I can. And if it be as vice chair, happy to do it. But I'm going to vote for Carl.
Carl.
I vote for Luke. So as I think most everybody here knows, mobility is kind of my passion project. And so, for me, being on this board is something, trying to contribute to make things better. And, maybe vice chair is a stepping stone to take it to another level. Luke and I worked as a subcommittee, right, on the El Paso County Boulevards. I've stepped up for other projects before. I think I have a good working relationship with staff and everybody on the board. So, I think, we can work well together, and I'd love to be vice chair or Luke to be vice chair to make that happen.
Okay. All in favor of Luke? Raise your hand. 1, 2. All in favor of Carl? 1, 2, 3. You're voting for, you voting for yourself and? Oh, you did. Okay. Okay, Carl, you're vice chair. Okay, the last, right.
Are you sure the AI algorithm doesn't have a bias?
Okay, does anybody want to be note taker? I think we're striking out on note taker, Roy.
Can we elect someone who's not here?
Susan Presti. I don't think we want to do that, though. She should be here.
Yeah, AI needs to capture this. We will, the city staff will continue note taking, working on this AI program, which may go to all the boards if it works, because it's supposed to summarize what we're doing right now. And I can't wait to see this when it comes in a day or two. So if that helps, then we'll be able to put it in the format or see how that format even works. But it's supposed to take that away from boards to have to worry too much about all this note taking. So we'll cross our fingers it's that good. But it still would be supplemental and help us out. And in the meantime, we'll go ahead and take care of that as a staff like we have in the past. And I will only say from a city perspective, Bill, I enjoyed 2019, I believe, working with you as chair. I learned a lot from you. You've done a lot for this community and just have a lot of respect for you, sir. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Roy. Appreciate it.
Second.
Okay, let's move on to the book study.
Then we're done with that.
You're done?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll check that off. Staff report, Juan.
Yeah, just, does anyone have any questions on the staff report for parking, revenue, data?
Hearing none.
Okay.
Public Works?
I do have a quick question on
Yeah.
that. So with Kevin gone, is there going to be another Kevin that comes into his place?
We have, we're interviewing for a supervisor.
Okay, I was
Yes.
just curious about what that looks like, but cool.
Okay,
Thank you.
no problem.
Okay, Public Works report. Got anything, Roy?
I have nothing tonight. It's already getting almost 8 o'clock. There's nothing in that unless any questions on a public service side that you guys have for me. Otherwise, I have nothing to report there.
City Council liaison.
Sure, I have just a couple things. One is that at last city council, we had a presentation on complete streets. Anyone who read the bulletin would be aware of that. And one of the things that council asked is that the maps board and in conjunction with city staff, prepare a policy for Manitou Springs to incorporate complete streets principles into our code, into an ordinance or policy of some sort. So get ready. I did want to say to Rolf that the free bus pass, city council is very, very interested in some sort of a bus pass for residents, whatever that looks like, but probably in conjunction with this new portal, which Mountain Metro is also very excited about working with us on. I did want to channel Susan Watkins for a minute here, because as you guys were discussing how to use the trams, one thing Susan always says is that you never go to a community engagement meeting and tell the community one thing and then do another. And we went to that, because I was at the community engagement meeting, and what I heard very strongly was that one of the trams would be for residents and one of the trams would be for tourists. And so I think that if you do go, if the council does decide to go to the VIA thing, you could use that as the resident thing, but just it troubled me a bit. Again, Susan has taught me well in that regard. And lastly, I just want to say that council, if it's not apparent, and I know Carl comes to a lot of council meetings and listens to our deliberations, but if it's not apparent, this council is highly, highly supportive of mobility options and actions. So I think that now's, if you guys bring stuff to council, there is a much better than average chance that things are going to be approved. On the flip side, council is so engaged in mobility actions that they could take whatever you recommend and totally flip it on its side and come up with their own recommendations. So, so it's a little good news, bad news, but I think mainly good news because council is doing so much. And the funding, as you can see from Juan's report, the funding is really pretty much there in the mobility and transportation enterprise fund to be able to really accomplish more than we've ever been able to accomplish. So testing, I think, is a very good thing at this point, and you'll get support for it. So that's all, unless anyone has any questions for me. Hearing none. Thank you.
Okay, any old business?
Wait, I do have old business real quick. The Bicycle Boulevard, Carl and I presented months ago. Now that I just heard that, council's open to ideas of mobility. Where does that stand? Where can we dig up that old business and do we represent it and to whom?
I could probably answer that, Bill, if you want. So part of this walkable city, I want to bring that back, probably a brief review. And then see from that what we want to approve on as a board with that. So yes, that was never lost. Now it's a time to bring it back when we hit the bike part of this thing. So I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, we'll want that, a little brief review of what it is. And then what do we want to try from that in the city with that project. So thank you.
I have one thing, Bill. So just a kind of a 2 data points. So I've had encounters with two folks from Colorado Springs that have come to Manitou and had to park, and the feedback from 2 people. So it's a small sample. One was a question of, hey, why doesn't Manitou use the same, Park Mobile that Colorado Springs does? Why do I have to have a different app for Manitou when it's just next door? And then the other person said that, the app that we have was hard to use. And so just wanted to share that for consideration.
Just for the record, we had Park Mobile in Manitou. We had it before Colorado Springs. We told them we were not satisfied with them, so we have no plans to bring it back in. And we went to T2, which works with our whole T2 system. And Juan, you can probably answer this better than I, but I do believe we have very few complaints, but we also had complaints about Park Mobile. So either way, learning to use apps are always difficult, and some people like one or the other, but it's been small, the complaints, as far as I know, from the pay to text and everything.
Very minor complaints.
Any future?
Just a walkable city. We'll continue and have plans for what we're going to do next month and discuss and keep going from there. And then I don't know if Corey, I guess it'll be on your plate now, is to figure out if the group wants anything else in next month's meeting. To keep in mind, we do have set aside a good chunk for the walkable city, but
Yeah, thanks everyone for your grace as I get up to speed on this. If you've got suggested agenda items, please send them to me and I'll be working with staff to set the agenda. I did actually want to get some clarification about the walkable city review, because I think we didn't actually go through the chapters that we outlined that we were going to. So would it be everyone's expectation that we would?
Yeah, we were actually going to do the first 3 to 5 chapters, but because trams was on the top of the list, we decided to do trams first. But going back, starting next month, we'll go back to the beginning chapters. I believe it's the 28th.
February
double check.
28th. Right?
yes. I should state too that we're gonna make all attempts to not change the date anymore. We really need to keep it at the 4th Wednesday of every month, and hopefully everyone has it on their calendar. Because we had a few folks that talked to me about that, and we need to try to stay to our schedule unless it interferes with a holiday or something like that.
Is it 4th or final Wednesday?
4th.
4th.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll never go the fifth, again, unless there's a holiday something or whatever.
Right.
Great, thanks.
Meeting is adjourned.